What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Infinite Library podcast. I haven't done this in a really long time. Actually, I think the last person that I officially had on the podcast that wasn't just Peepo Talk with Call was actually Valky, back again, and I'm also joined with AceTrainer this time around because I've talked to him about being on a podcast for months now. I'm like, yo, Ace, dude, would you want to be on a podcast? And he's like, yeah, bet. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, let's do this. And then I forget to do a podcast. You know, it is what it is, right? But finally got ADS trainer, the Sultan of Standard on the podcast.
Hey, yo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, dude. So yeah, is the format of these podcasts very informal. We're just gonna pretty much Peepo talk for for a hot minute here. We got some topics. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on, especially like in the last couple of weeks. We've got E7 World Cup, the actual, the main stage matches that are going to be coming up, starting literally tomorrow. We've got the Collab information, and one thing I kind of want to talk about today too is the misconception in my mind of the continued stale meta that a lot of people just continue to say is just this stale meta that's never changing in RTA. And it's really good too to have both of you, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have both of you is that you guys have a kind of a very different play style. Valky's more aggro, he's a bit more speedy, and then Ace, you're, like I said, a big standard guy pretty much. I would like to give you credit for being the person who turned a lot of people on to the AROS ADS meta, just because it worked so good, and that's kind of how you got your nickname as AROS trainer or ADS trainer, stuff like that. But Ace, we've had Valky on before, but we haven't had you on. So how about you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you start playing Epic 7, stuff like that?
I guess I'll start, right?
Yeah.
So I started playing Green Violet Banner, and I've always been I would say like a collection gamer. I just played GVG with friends, and then I played competitive arena for I think season 3 and season 4 of arena. When RTA came out, I actually was not huge on it because at the time I was just playing single player games. I was working a full-time job, and then when like 2020 hit and I had more free time, I was like, oh, maybe time to play RTA because I have a pretty nice account. And then I know like a few friends were talking about streaming RTA, so I was like, you know what, I can stream some RTA, and I started playing RTA. I would say early mid season 3 of RTA, and I've been streaming RTA ever since.
All right, cool. Ace?
Yeah, for me, I started during the Fire Lilius first banner. I really liked her animation. I saw that, everyone says rush wave Wyvern, right? You got to farm for Wyvern. And I was doing that for a good bit. And now I would say my account's sort of known to be like half like speed set stuff, half destruction counter set stuff. Don't farm a lot of KDs. But yeah, I guess I've become known for AROS trainer or ADS trainer because for the season where I got Legend the first time, I definitely used a good amount of ADS on especially the 4-5 picks. I think she's like a pretty neutral unit, but since Solitaria being buffed, and you still have Rowana, you still have LRK, and now you have a pretty reliable immunity setting Knight with AROS. I've been using her slightly less, so I'm trying to be more known as the AROS trainer, right? But yeah, I mean, I still really enjoy playing like the more tank down, slower paced heroes because I like having weird picks on my 4th pick, 5th pick. I like using heroes like Zahak. I could even like speed up a bit and use maybe like a Bruisery Strays, but or like a very fast fire hand guy. But yeah, that's what I enjoy most about the game, having those like perfect optimal DPSs for the 4th and 5th slot, you know. Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite stories about you is that I forget who was talking about it, or like I don't know if I was in like a streamer stream, but like I heard somebody talking about it, and they were talking about how you were like, you know, rank 1 early in the season. You already had like a ton of matches and stuff like that, and like they asked you, they're like, dude, like, you know, why do you play so much? Like, why do you have so many matches? And you're just like, you know, I just really like playing RTA.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people are like, how's this
yeah.
dude play so, like, how's this dude got like 1,000 matches already? Like, why do you know, torture yourself like that? And you're just like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you mean, dude? I just really like playing RTA, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool, right? Like, I feel like at a certain point, right, when you've got that many matches in a season, right, I mean, like, take Merlin for example. That dude had like what, 10,000 matches last season. Like, you either gotta just really enjoy RTA, or you're just a masochist, or both. I mean, you know,
I mean, I want to point out one important fact, right? Like, Merlin plays
Valky always
pure
practices.
speed, right? Like, Merlin's games don't even reach like Frenzy 2. And then AceTrainer's games don't end before Frenzy fucking 6, man. So
That's
if you really
true.
think about it, right? Who plays more RTA? Is it really Merlin, or is it AceTrainer? Like, you might as well call him Frenzy Trainer.
That's true, right? You know, I get that.
Most of my games end like Frenzy 5, let's say. That's fair to say.
All right, but like, to Valky's point, right? You know, you're in Frenzy 5. Merlin's already got 5 games out of the way, dude. He's in and out.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I'll say this though. So I thought Valky was gonna point out the fact that this is my main game, because I've come from just like playing a lot of Pokemon on emulator, playing competitive Pokemon. I'm used to just like queuing up for like these quick, like sort of some pretty fun like games that can end in like 10 minutes and there's still some strategy involved, right? So I'm used to that. So that's why like RTA is sort of like the perfect, you know, transition from playing like competitive Pokemon. But
So did you used to play like Stockpile Snorlax back in the day?
yeah, sure. I like a Calm Mind Suicune, you know.
Oh my god.
Dude, I remember like when I found out about Stockpile Snorlax back in the day, I loved it because you just literally wasted somebody else's like entire day, and I would actually just sit around at anime conventions and I would just challenge random kids, and then I would just literally waste their entire time until they just disconnected.
You're evil.
Like, you could literally see too who it was, because they were like getting visibly mad, and I would just like kind of walk around to see like who else was on like their DS and stuff like that, and who was like getting super mad at me just like making them just kill themselves. It was probably one of my favorite experiences with Pokemon ever.
God damn.
Respect.
Yeah,
I don't know if I respect that, but
bro, I've been
you
a
know?
Frenzy 10 gamer forever in like every game. You know, there's nothing I get, you know, that makes me more happy than just wasting like 30 to 45 minutes of somebody else's day.
I don't even enjoy that, dude. But also, the reason why I don't like Stockpile Snorlax as much as, I don't know, like Shuckle or, you know, Calm Mind Suicune is like they have attack. They can do like big damage. Stockpile Snorlax doesn't do big damage. It's frustrating.
Right, but you just make them run out of moves until they kill themselves.
Yeah.
Like 3 hours later.
Yep.
I got all day, man. I ain't got nowhere to be. Play the animation.
You guys know that Monka S emote? That's just me sitting here listening to this. So, I'm just like, what am I hearing?
Yeah.
Why am I in this crowd?
Why? That's a good question. That's a good question. But speaking of competitive, E7 World Cup. We've went through the preliminaries. Were there any matches that stood out to you? We'll start with Ace in the preliminaries. What matches stood out to you? Like, what were your favorite matches?
I think I was really impressed by Phantom out of the Korean side. I think his
Phantom's
drafts
Japan.
are super clean.
It's
Oh,
Japan.
is it? We'll edit that. We'll edit that out. We'll edit that out. But yeah, I liked Phantom, and out of the global side, I liked Rikazo's drafts pretty well. You know, I know Valky's probably gonna support me on this,
Yep,
but
that's my boy.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was a big fan of Magic versus Rikazo. Like, out of all of the matches, those were the ones where I was like, yo, this is kind of sweet. Like, look at these dude. I mean, when Magic pulled out the Yuha and the one match, right, where Rikazo had the straws and Magic put his imprints perfectly so that the straws clapped the hand guy instead of like the Yuha. Yeah, I was blown away, man. Those were some pretty sweet matches. I'm just sad that Magic had literal McDonald's internet. That was a little bit sad because I wanted to see how that set would have worked out, but I think Rikazo, out of like the tournament and just in general, I think Rikazo's a really interesting drafter in general. I'll watch Rikazo pretty often on stream, watching him stream and stuff like that. I think he's really cool to watch. And I also kind of found it interesting that the different regions played very, very differently. But Valky, what about you?
So yeah, so I was also gonna say, right, Magic versus Rikazo was probably my favorite series, right? And I kind of have this level of insight. I'm sure Ace has, the same level of insight on Magic side, where Chi and Rikazo are opposite side of the same coin, where they both have really insane gear for almost being just like pretty low spenders, right? They're like monthly pack players.
Yeah.
But the Magic, like Chi has really good defensive gear, and Rikazo has insanely good offensive gear. And they both have this problem where they're missing a huge chunk of the heroes and pulling with very limited hero pools. So Chi somehow ends up being this like insane tank gear, very defensive player. And Rikazo is like, very limited hero pool, insane gear, offensive player. And just seeing that clash was very, very interesting.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I thought that it was really cool. I enjoyed the pocket picks that some of the people were pulling out in the prelims. I was a little sad, and I don't think they've put any of these up yet, but I was a little sad with the prelims that we didn't get to see some of the other matches. I think that realistically, like, they should have at least like recorded the offline matches, because like I understand, especially like as a tournament runner, right, especially since Valky, me and you did the team tournament recently. It's a lot of matches, right? And you can't realistically, especially like with the amount of time and the amount of production value and stuff like that they have put into the E7 World Cup. I understand that they can't put everyone on stream, but there were a lot of matches that I was really hyped to see that we just didn't get to see at all. And I thought that was kind of disappointing that they didn't like record those, or at least like grab highlights from them, right?
So
I
from
think that was
my
a very
understanding, they actually
yeah.
are recorded. It's just a debate whether or not those matches are going to be released.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't put them out there. I mean, people would want to see them, I think, if nothing else, like, highlights from them, right? Because I feel like if the person got to Epic's, like, the prelims, like, their match was probably pretty good, right? People probably wanted to see that at some point. So I think releasing them would be a huge boon. If nothing else, it's it can't hurt, right? Putting them out
I
there.
think it depends, right? So I know for a fact, there were a few series in the global side that were very, very RNG. If you know which ones I'm referencing, because I'm friends with like most of the players on the global side, right? And it's
Right.
like some of them were pretty upset it played out that way, and I know if E7 wanted to be seen as a legitimate esport, like there has to be this strategic decision making, and if you I know a lot of people were waiting for example, like the Light face reveal, right? And
Yeah.
Light was just basically saying in chat as like the rounds were proceeding, he was like, "Yeah, I don't think you want to see me lose to Green Armin."
Dude, Green Armin. So I always bring this up, right? Last season, I was undefeated against Light E7. At no point was it even remotely close. I absolutely hot dumpstered Light every single time that we fought. And that was 4 or 5 matches, and absolutely every single time I picked Green Armin. And every single time he did not respect the Green Armin. And every single time my Green Armin absolutely popped off and hot dumpstered him so bad. And I'm like, at some point, Light is going to ban my Green Armin because it just dumps on him every single time. And 0 times did he ever ban my Green Armin. That's why, like, when we were doing the CCI, I made the joke about how, if I ended up going up against Light, he would probably ban my Green Armin, and we didn't get to go up against each other. But yeah, no, that is Light E7's crux, and I'm like, why don't more people just pick Green Armin? I see all these people get cleaved all the time. I'm like, bro, where's your green rem at? Call taught me. You just pick more rems. You pick your green rem, you pick your blue rem, you pick your fire rem, and then you just play the animation. That's just really what it is.
Yeah. As much as Green Armin is a pretty toxic unit, it's not fun to be stunned, obviously. But do you guys think it's a necessary evil in a meta where Ran and Para are so powerful?
But yeah, no, I think
I
he
don't think
actually.
Green Armin's good against Ran at all because you just press S2 and it's like stun Ds.
Okay, well, yeah, but
Right.
I don't think that the stun is nearly the problem, right? Because like my Green Armin will just one tap things. Like she does so much damage that the stun isn't really the problem. If I pop off once, twice with Green Armin, like your squishy unit's just dead. Like it's just yeeted and deleted.
Yeah, I think the weakness with him, or sorry, her, is that if they have an anchor like APOC,
Yeah.
or they have DN, then it's like, both sides are sort of fearing the other side in terms of certain RNG, and then Armin's not doing too much damage, right? But
Yeah, I think the main issue with Armin, as a hero, right, is Armin is incredibly bad against flexible aggro players. So if you look at somebody like Jinte, like, because I learned quite a bit from Jinte, right? So if Jinte has a style right now where you start with like a DN Stenny opening, right? If you pick Green Armin too early, first of all, Green Armin can't counter Stenny, and if you commit the Green Armin too early, your team is way too slow. That just
Yep.
means I slow down to match you, and then now your Green Armin, even if you counter, you're not hurting me that badly, right? And if you pick Green Armin too late, that means I should have an appropriate draft that's adapted to fight your first couple of picks, and I just ban your Green Armin last anyway.
Yeah,
Right?
usually
So
for
it's
me,
one
like,
of those 5th pick units.
Yeah, for me, usually Green Armin's like a 4th, 5th pick. Because yeah, there have been a lot of times where I'll just slam Green Armin into like cleave, and it ends up being APOC Ravi versus Trizette Green Armin, and there's just nothing I can do at that point to fight that because I'm not going to do enough damage to out sustain an A Ravi, and Trizette Green Armin's just not going to beat it. So yeah, usually Green Armin though, like with Light, he doesn't really flex into that. Like, I don't know that Light knows how to slow down. So, usually when he starts cleaving, he does end of season. Fair, that's fair.
Yeah, I would say, especially for these pure cleavers, right? If you look at Light, if you look at Stress, how they play throughout, like the first, let's just say a season 3 months, right? The first like 2 months and 3 weeks, how they play there is insanely different from the way they play like last week. When last week rolls around, everybody plays standard until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fair. But yeah, no, I mean like Green Armin, I think in terms of like going up against like you know, pure cleave that doesn't like flex you know, into a slower aggro is really really strong. And I feel like a lot more people, especially like the people who have issues with cleave, I'm just like, bro, you Green Armin though? Like where's your play the animation at?
Yeah. Against like what I would not like Light himself, right? But like Light clones, like the guys who look at the 5 unit Light picks on stream, they're like, "Oh, I picked this to legend too, me fast." Right? Like against those
Yeah.
guys, Green Arm incredibly good.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, we're talking a difference of like, you know, high champ versus, you know, literal light E7 and Jinte. Like, you can't take like, this is what Jinte would do against like, you know, the normal person, right? Because you know, most people don't have that. So usually like people who are pushing like, you know, champ early emp, I'm like, yeah, man, Green Armin's phenomenal, because you're gonna run into a cleaver that you're just gonna slam it, and then, you know, they're just gonna not respect it, or, you know, think that it's the least of the issues that you're gonna have, and then you're just gonna yeet them and delete them. And you know, it's a good pick to have in your anti cleave repertoire.
Yeah.
Sigurd Scythe, Dilibet, Green Armin. Those are like my favorite things to pick into like any Rand pickers.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I think as we were trying to circle around to earlier, the meta is really good right now. There's good answers and good ways to play almost every single playstyle right now, as far as
Hold
I can
on,
see.
Valk, let me interrupt you real quick, because I was on Facebook earlier today, and I saw somebody post that this is the most boring, stale meta, and people only pick the same 5 units, and the game is literally dying, and everybody is quitting the game because RTA is not diverse, and it's been the same meta for the last like year and a half. So I don't know where you're coming from with this bad take, but this random Facebook person who's probably pushing like, you know, mid gold told me that. So, you know, I'm gonna have to, you know, defer to them
Shoot,
and their
right,
expertise.
Yeah, his rank is like literally gold. What am I thinking? You know, I just have a humble, you know, purple rank. Yeah, well, I can't believe I was trying to have an opinion. Whoops, my bad.
That's true. You know, like that's the big thing too, right? Is like we saw a lot of diversity in Epic 7 World Cup. I think I saw a post somewhere of somebody saying that we had 16 different you know, first picks. There were a lot of units that were picked in the World Cup. We saw a lot of Shu, which, you know, for some reason people still to this day think that Shu is not really that good, and I'm like, but like your XDD, bro, like, are you kidding me? I'm like, if it pops off, it's worse than Green Charles ever was times 10. You know, that rat will just delete your whole team in like one turn, and it's absolutely nuts. You know,
she's Green Charles with defense penetration, self-healing, a built-in Elbrus, and HP scaling. Like,
and anti-crit.
Please explain to me how like this hero is like ethical, you know?
Right, dude, I'm actually super hype to use her on Ed's artifact. I think that she's going to be
god.
32 crit damage, 32 speed. Like, it's good when that thing ramps all the way up. That's going to be actually nutty. I think it's going to actually be best in slot for a while.
I think Ed's artifact is going to be incredibly good on all of these meta warriors of each element that scales off HP, right? Like Shu, Alencia. I'm not even sure if it's going to be that good on Edward, because like if you play standard, people are just going to avoid debuffing him.
No, I don't think so. Actually, before the podcast, we looked at Ed's modifiers came out, and his modifiers are on par with APOC Ravi, and actually better in some situations. In some,
because it ramps up.
Yeah, Yeah, his S3 when fully ramped after literally just 3 uses is better than APOC Ravi's fully stacked S3. Like with same stats, same HP. Sure, but the thing is though is he doesn't have the built-in survivability that APOC Ravi has, but I still think that he's going to be pretty good.
I mean,
I actually think
yeah.
he has like a good amount of built-in survivability, because think of it like this. You don't want this unit to S3 because it's so powerful, right? As we establish. But
Yeah.
how do we prevent that? Like, you're hitting into them. So many of these units, these meta DPSs or like, you know, supports, they have S1s that do some sort of debuffing, and
Right.
he's heavily punishing that. So you're in a situation where it's like, oh, you don't want to proc the counterbellion, but there's no safe target to hit to not proc the counterbellion. It's like that sort of situation, you know? I think
Yeah. Like this is the thing, right? He is a unit because of his S3, right? You want to be constantly you want to be on pen set, right? Which means you don't have immunity. And when you don't have immunity, this hero is actually even better. Right? And as a Spectre Tenebria player, I'm terrified of this unit.
Yeah, no, I think that he's gonna be good. Somebody in chat said lifesteal Ed could be brutal. Yeah, I think that he's gonna be like a better champ Zerato, right? Because
I'm not huge on single target units running lifesteal, especially when you know, they're nuking once X amount of turns, right? It's not like Green Violet where every time he takes a single turn, he's like hitting back 4 times, right?
But the thing is though, is like to like Ace's point, right? If you're hitting him with the debuffs and he's punishing you back with AoE S2s,
it's a 2-turn silence.
Yeah.
It's a 2-turn freaking silence. Like, hello? 2-turn silence, 2-turn blind, 2-turn attack down.
Yeah.
In
like,
what world is that not like I see that, I'm just like, geez. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna need to start playing with more immunity.
Yeah. Well, and then you're gonna get punished by Rimuru.
Yeah, so I actually think he's pretty good with Reamer, right? You can form a pretty strong pincer. You pincer people who have immunity, and you pincer people who don't have immunity.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, to like the point with lifesteal, right, is like, yeah, his big thing is like the single target S1, S3, but like if you're trying to like focus him and you have those debuffing S1s, you're going to be getting those big S2s that are going to be able to heal for quite a bit as well. But we're kind of going into like a later topic, you know, because we got diverged off onto, you know, Ed because of the XDD talk there. But like the big thing is, right, is we are seeing a lot of diversity, right? The Hwayoung, which everybody still to this day is like, this is the scourge of the game. It's the most toxic unit that's ever been put into this game. She's terrible. She literally one-shots everything in the, you know, in the entire game, plus some with just one S3. I'm pretty sure she had less than a 50% win rate in the prelims, and I think that's because like a lot of people are learning have learned how to play around her, especially people with very flexible drafts, right? And she's not nearly as big of a threat. Now, if you bring that up to people, they'll be like, oh, yeah, of course it's really not that big of a deal to people who have, you know, all of the gear and all of the units in the entire world. And that's to be that's fair. Also, in the prelims, a lot of times people would just you know, continuously rip their S3s into, you know, a 30k proof of valor A Ravi, which I'm like, every time I saw it, I'm like, why did you think that this was going to be any different than the last?
I'll put it this way, right?
5 or 6 times.
The way Hwayoung is in the game right now, Hwayoung is just like this modern age, like Epic 7's version of RB. That's all she is, right? You kind of need one of these units that's super simple to use, super strong on gear, or like super simple to gear, right? When RB first got buffed, that's what he did, right? He's one of those units that if you had him, like the game just became a lot easier for you, right? After that, like what happened? That unit became SSB. After SSB, it was Landy. After Landy, it was Rimuru. After Rimuru, now it's Hwayoung. You're always gonna have one of these units that people just complain about all the time, right?
Oh
and
yeah,
that's like a
absolutely.
necessary evil where it's just you can kind of anchor a whole playstyle around these units, right?
Yeah.
And to not invalidate people's like opinions, right? Yeah, like if you have a really new account and you don't really know how to play around them and you don't have all the units in the world, like yeah, it's gonna feel pretty bad if like you just play tank down and you just get kicked by Hwayoung. But like that's kind of what pre-bans are for, right?
Yeah.
You There's ways to design any account to have a viable play style in like an RT environment. And I think especially in this meta, every play style is viable. You can play any play style. Like there's you look in top 100 right now, right? There's players of every single play style, as opposed to back in season 3 and 4, it was like only the tank players. Back in like season 5, it was only standard players, and in season 6 it was basically aggro and cleave players, right? Now you're seeing a little bit of everybody.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really the big thing. And I'm gonna put a pin in that topic, which we'll circle back to a little bit later, about how people perceive units, right? We'll people talk about that for like a little bit. How like if a unit's not a Hwayoung, it's a sleeper skip, and if it is like anywhere close to a Hwayoung, then people are going to complain that it's just another toxic disaster. And I kind of hate the fact that like Smilegate's in kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with that. But yeah, I think like in general, I mean, the meta, especially too, like the thing with taking Epic 7 World Cup as like an example here, like we're seeing the diversity there. And the fact too is like I remember like when I was streaming it, and I saw some like discussion like outside of streams, like people talking about certain matches, and they're like, bro, this guy's so dumb. If he would have picked X, Y, and Z, he would have won. And I'm like, that's a really big brain take. It's weird that you're not there in that match versus the person who picked this, that's picking this unit, to counter this.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Know,
also like the people who, are on Reddit and on Stove and on Facebook that are just kind of out there fighting for our gamer rights, right? Talking about game balance. We talk about game balance, man. So like they're always like, "Oh, this game can't play. It's cringe whale game. Oh, no game balance." Like, oh, like okay, well, now the game is pretty balanced. Every playstyle is viable, and you have somebody
yeah.
like AceTrainer who spent like, it's just monthly packs and sitting at rank 1, like all right, where you at? Like, pull up. I see your name on Reddit all the time. I see your name on Stove all the time. Like, why don't I see your name in top 100? Where you at, man?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
surely it's your time to shine now, right? The game's balanced now, right? We have game balance. Like, why are you still crying on Stove? Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Do you think that after E7 World Cup um they will kind of like look at some of the units that may have like made a bigger splash in the E7 World Cup stage, and maybe make adjustments on those, or making adjustments on units that they didn't see there? Like I feel like they're pretty like active at like pulling data on units. I mean, some of the times when they update a unit, or when they try to balance something, I put that in air quotes, it doesn't really it hit the mark, like the Valen PV change. But I feel like, do you think that they're going to kind of look at some of those and then adjust from there?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even from like I would say they have like macro data, right? Even from a micro data perspective. So, for example, like my coach Kamikita, right? He coaches 17 other people as well. And what happens is he just requests people to screenshot their games, put it in a spreadsheet, and then just based off of picks, wins, and losses, like kind of mapped out what units are good and what units are bad, right? So just within my circle as well, we kind of have a spreadsheet of data of just what heroes are good, what heroes are bad, what heroes are rising, what heroes are kind of synergize with each other, and what heroes have terrible matchups that you may not expect, right? And just in that sense, we found most of the time, like 80% of the times, balance changes um go in tandem with what we're expecting units to kind of be buffed or nerfed, or rather not nerfed, right? Just whatever is buffed, or frenzy changes are happening, and new units releases to kind of counter certain mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of the time I think they do an okay job, but what will happen is sometimes, like, I would say one of their biggest missteps, right? Especially in season 6, when 2 days before the end of the season, they release Hwayoung, and I'm just like, huh, that's kind of interesting. I guess, like, if you picked up on this early, you get a free legend frame, because 2 days before the end of the season, ain't nobody's gonna be ready for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which, although they do seem like they're going to be changing that like a little bit, right? Um with the ability, with the fact that like they're going to just globally ban that unit, like newer units that come near the end of the season. Because yeah, I think like with them putting Hwayoung out like right there at the end, that was, pretty rough for sure. But it'll be interesting to see how they do that moving forward. Now it will be interesting to see if some of the newer units that are going to be allowed in the main stage are going to make an appearance. Like, I know that like Sage Vivian is kind of a niche pocket pick in certain situations. I've seen some people use her quite well, and obviously I've seen a lot of people that still think that she's literal garbage and the worst unit that has ever been
I mean, that's kind of how the game is, right? So if we look at, like, I mean, on the topic of game balance and how this is received, right? It's always gone through periods of, oh, they release a lot of crazy units and a lot of crazy buff, and oh my god, the game's crazy, and they're like, okay, relax. You're making a summon for every unit. You're shifting up the meta too much, right? So if you think about the Kara meta, Kara May Chloe got buffed, and then immediately they're like, oh, yo, you guys gotta slow down. Like these units are too strong. Like the meta's too crazy. Okay, so they release Rem and Amelia, and then ushers in the European Remlet era that everybody hated, right? And they're like, wow, every unit is a must pull unit. Cringe, right? Because for a stretch, right, there was those, and then immediately a month after was the slime collab. So you have Rimuru, Milim, and then that was also around summer. So Caesarea ran, C Lilius, right? It was quite a, honestly, that was a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
And then that kind of capped off with Peira into Hwayoung by the end of season 6, and people were like, okay, you can't do that, right? And I'm with them on that, right? You can't be shifting the game this much, like every month and a half, right? It's a lot to adjust to, right? For like very competitive players who kind of need to keep up with every unit, it really is too much. But then we also have this stretch where after like February of this year's, right? So we've had this for half a year now, where the game has been pretty reasonable, right? They do smaller buffs, like the designer Lilibet buff,
which I still
the
think
Green
that
Celine
like
buff.
the designer Lilibet buff was probably one of the best buffs that they've ever done to a unit in the entirety of the game. I think that the designer Lilibet buff should be the absolute gold standard pinnacle of every buff that they do moving forward, because it wasn't too strong, it wasn't too weak. I think it was absolutely perfect, and it made her do what she was supposed to do even better without making her this like godlike. They didn't make her a hand guy. They made her do what she needed to do without making it so that she could be stuffed into literally any draft with no penalty whatsoever.
Yeah, same with Destina as well. I think Destina buff in the same batch was massive.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Like, what do you mean though? Destina lost all of her healing, everything. She's literally the worst healer in the game. And yeah.
Somebody was actually telling me that on Reddit. They're like, "Oh, I used to use her for PvE, and she was so good at healing. Now she can't heal as much." Like, okay, in PvE, why are you using Destina over Acades? which
Yeah,
is
just use
literally a
Achilles.
4-star unit. Achilles is
True.
better in PvE. Like they literally gave Destina a identity that, you know, over her old one that was overshadowed by a 4-star. What the hell are you complaining about, dude?
Yep.
Like,
I think
I
the
love this
ideal.
hero. You know, I know everything about this hero. I don't know if I can love them anymore. Okay, well, if they make this hero literally a better hero than a 4-star hero now, as 5-star heroes should be, and you don't love this hero anymore, did you really love this hero in the first place, or did you just want to complain?
Yeah, if you don't love her at her pastry rat, you don't deserve her at her XDD.
Yup.
True. But yeah, like I think the ideal, right, when you're talking about Dilibet and being like a golden standard, like all ML5s, all 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever, right, should occupy a unique role in certain situations that, but because we have so many units already and they always come out with new units, I don't know how they can design like the game to be ideal in that sense, where in certain situations, this pick is always going to be better than whatever other pick, you know?
Well, I mean, that's like pretty much any game. And this is one of the things that I think with people who talk about, oh, I want game balance. Like that, it's an absolute pipe dream, right? Like the game will never be fully balanced so that all 300 units can be used in any draft ever. Like there's always going to be this unit is the best in this slot, right? Like, a Ravi is probably the best in her role, which is to be in every draft ever. And you'll get those people that are like, oh, well, you'll get a new unit that comes out, like let's say, Sage Vivian or something like that, and then people will be like, okay, but why would I pick this over this other unit?
Yeah, and I mean, we keep beating the dead horse, right? I mean, at least I'm beating the dead horse, but I'm willing to beat it for as long as there's people out there like on Reddit talking about game balance.
Somebody's gonna clip that out of context and just it's gonna be Valky just saying, you know what, I'm gonna beat it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point, right? But
yeah,
what I'm saying is like, when was the last time you seen somebody who ended top 100 complain about game balance? And then when was the last time you seen someone complain about game balance and with any respectable rank?
True.
I'm curious, right? Because there's certain times where like the game is not very like there's something that could be fixed, right? But ultimately speaking, right? If you're looking to be good at the game, right? Regardless of whether or not the game is balanced, you find a way to play the game.
Right. Yeah. And,
right? And if the balance is really that bad, like people wouldn't be playing the game.
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of the people that I talk to that are like, mid high legend or emperor or anything like that, like almost everybody that I talk to is like, you know what? Yeah, no. Like once they put in like double pre-bans, like the game balance is good because you can get rid of the units that are giving you a hard time, and they've put in so many tools to kind of counter other units. Like, if you just don't want to deal with C. Lilius, then guess what? You just pre-ban C. Lilius, and then you learn to deal with, Ran opening or, something along those lines. Like you just kind of have to learn as you go. And I think a lot of times people who complain about balance either don't want to build or like play a different style. Like they just don't want to build the tools that they need to beat the issues that they have. And to be fair, I do understand like sometimes it's difficult because like maybe you have the unit but you don't have the molas or the catalysts or something like that. And I think one of the things that's going to help out a lot of people is when we get that thing that they're going to put in the game where you can just straight up 60 plus 15 something, like one unit at a time. I think that'll help out a lot of people that don't have the resources necessarily to invest. But also I feel like at the same time, like if you don't have the gear or the resources or the desire to build the tools that you need to win, then you really don't have the right to complain about game balance, because you have the tools, you just refuse to build them. Like, that's the thing.
I'll
that
even
pisses
go on
me off
record
the
to say
most.
this, right? And Ace, if you think I'm pushing my point too much, right? I mean, you play the
I'm gonna
exact
counterpoint
opposite
you,
play
so,
style as
yeah.
me, and you're basically like I like to just I've spent a lot on games I like. You barely spent, right? So feel free to
Yeah.
refute this if you think I'm wrong. A lot of like, not all, right? Obviously, some people are like really new and they really just don't have the tools to deal with certain drafts. In which case, it is a time thing. But for a lot of people, like, oh, I'm a day one player. Oh, every month I spend like $250 on all 5 gear packs, right? Those guys are like, oh, but this, like, those people specifically that like to complain on online forums, they're just not willing to admit they're fucking stupid. I'll go on record to say that. Like, nobody wants to say like, oh, I'm not like that good at the game, right? Like, and it's understandable. I don't like to say that. Oh wow, I got outplayed. Oh wow, I got brain drafted on stream, right? It happens, right?
Yeah, I tell
But it's
people I'm
like,
stupid all the time. Like, I got a legend level account, and like a bronze level brain, so that's just puts me in like Emperor somewhere.
same. I have legend level account, Emperor Brain. Like, I hover around rank 95 to rank 105 every single season, right? That's the life I live.
Yeah.
But yeah, building on Valky's point, I think he's saying that like these people that have the resources because they whaled, right? They have the gear, they have the molas, but maybe they're not problem solving and reflecting on what they're losing to. Let's say you're consistently losing to Shu, build Zahak, or build Kawazu plus C Lilia's support, if you're consistently losing to Cleave, build those rems that we were talking about, right? Like, you need to be able to problem solve and reflect on patterns of drafts that you're losing to, draft archetypes that you're losing to, specific DPSs to where you can say, like, and that's the fun part of E7 and the meta shifting sometimes, to be like, I'm losing to a certain unit. Let me look at the hero journal, see what I currently have that I can invest some resources into to not lose to this unit as often anymore, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would always say, because I'm a big like data guy, right? Because of my coach Kami. And one of the things we've always noticed is the game almost always has been like centered around 2 characters ever since their buff. It was Spectre Tenebria and it was Landy, and they basically take turns being strong. Just depending on when other units are strong, it's either Landy is real strong right now and Spectenny is weak, or Spectenny is real strong and Landy's real weak, right? The only difference when both of them were equally strong was during Kara meta, where it was Landy, Stenny, and Kara, and it was like you play a rock paper scissors there, right? And what it comes down to is you just got to look at your own games and actually kind of, dare I say it, think what makes you strong or weak.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm not a big. You lost me there at that last part. Ace's suggestion is just find out what you're losing to and then just don't lose to it. I agree, but then Valky comes up with that T word, and you got me there, man. Like, yeah, I don't know about that one. That whole
my apologies. I touched upon a forbidden subject there.
That's true.
Yeah.
See, that's why I like playing Hwayoung, because I don't have to think. I just rip S3 and it either dies or it doesn't die. And chances are,
that's the thing,
die,
right? Everybody likes to complain about game balance, but anytime a new hero comes out and it's not Hwayoung level, people are like, wow, trash unit, skip.
Yeah.
When Arya came out, right? People were like, trash unit, skip. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is one of the best tanks in the game.
Counters.
They're like, oh no, she's a bruiser. You can't do. I'm like, okay, you build her real fast like a tank, and suddenly all of these guys who just picks Hwayoung, they pick Apoc Ravi, they pick Stenny, and they don't think, right? They don't use their noggins. They leave your Arya in, and your Arya walls off their entire team. And now what do?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. Finish your thought.
Oh no, go ahead, Ace.
Yeah. So it's like. People are like, don't break the game anymore with these Hwayoung type units, right? So Smilegate is like, fine, every unit is one of those, pick 3 through pick 5 units where they serve a certain niche or a certain function, right? And now the rest of the draft kind of gets influenced by that pick, but you can't pick them too early because they have very well-defined weaknesses, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how Epic 7 is played. They're not going to put out any more of these Hwayoung type units, at least not very often, right? So the game doesn't change as much, and now people are complaining about that. It's like you really can't make everybody happy.
No, you absolutely can't. And that was what we were going to talk about, um, before, is that, yeah, you either, if it's not OP, it's trash. That's literally what I see every single time in my comment section of my videos. Like, I will come up with these videos. I'll be like, look, you can use it in this situation. You can theoretically use it as, like, when Arya came out, I was like, maybe you don't even bother with like the damage, because, like, yeah, her damage could be good, but you use her as a support, and people are like, what the fuck is a support? If it doesn't do giga damage, it is the biggest piece of shit. Like, what do you mean support? Like, the best support is if you just kill them. Like, that's the best crowd control. Just kill the other team, right?
Yeah, like so many people are like, Mino can pick 4 DPS. What mean?
Dude, that was like my biggest, like, not to crap on anybody from the past, but that was one of my biggest problem with, like, Tenha viewers, was that they only knew DPS. If you told them anything other than damage, they're like, wait, what do you mean?
Wait, really? They had that because back when Tenha was an E7 player, right? I was an arena player at the time.
Yeah.
I actually got to Legend for the first time because I watched a Tenha video where it was he had this really cool team where it was Oxlots pushing a Baiken, right? Baiken would one tap the Sage Ball, because Sage Ball was in every defense back then, right? There was no immunity set in the game. You had a Watcher Shuri and you had Greenest area. So the team was Oxlots, Baiken would combo something, CR push your team. Your greenest area would reset your Baiken, right? And then Watcher Shuri would one shot something, CR pushes again, and then, like, hopefully your Oxlots gets pushed up again. You're on Spirit's Breath. You push your Baiken again, and then you ramp the rotation again. It was so sick. I was like,
dude,
wow,
it was one of my favorite. Double Lots Baiken was probably one of my favorite, like, Guild Wars teams back in the day, actually. Like, I would just slingshot Baiken around, like, because Arby would be in every defense, and you just double tap Arby, and then you just kept pushing her, and then she just killed everything else. But yeah, no, back in the day, like, yeah, everything was just DPS, and people would just come into my videos and they'd be like, wait, hold on, but this doesn't kill anything. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's crazy, dude. It's a tank. Like, you just kill them eventually. That's just the reality of that. But I feel like a lot of times people they can't get out of this habit of, well, if it doesn't one shot something, why would I use it? Like, I just needed to delete something off the map. Why would I use something that takes more than one turn when I could just kill them?
I always have this recommendation, right, where it's like, if you need to do one pick and that either needs to win or lose you the game, I have a very simple game, right? You can play with anybody, right? You don't even need a mobile device. It's called Rock, Paper, Scissor. And I'll say that's a pretty entertaining game on its own. But I mean, jokes aside, right? For all of those people that want balance, right? I would say right now we have, like, pretty good game balance, and every unit has their situation to be useful. And I think, like, every unit coming
Fire
out.
Dingo?
I mean, that's an old unit, Can't you gotta buff him a bit for him to be kind of relevant. But yeah. I would say right now, ever since, like, the RGB meta with, like, Carrot and whatnot, this is, like, the most RGB friendly, various playstyle friendly, and generally speaking, right? In any meta, standard is, like, the strongest technically play style and the most popular, and I would say this is, like, the best time to play standard again since, like, season 6.
Yeah, I agree. And as a standard player, I enjoy it.
I don't know if it's the best time to play standard. I think, like, openers are still very powerful, and I'm glad, like, Valky circled back to balancing, because you did say, like, there's no one in the top 100 that are complaining about balancing issues, right? But I know Call was complaining about balancing for a bit, and I'll complain about balancing when I review, like, balance patch notes. I do think, like, a lot of these recently balanced units, right? If you think about, like, HU Fiend, our Valen was pretty good. But yeah, like, they haven't been too impactful on making, I guess, slower players more, like, bringing the momentum back to slower players, I do think standard or like tank down is not, that good right now. But I'm just to hear why you do feel like it's the best right now
Okay.
before
So
I respond. Yeah.
so right now, as far as the last balance patch goes, I think nobody would say like it's unreasonable to have a really flat balance patch, because last year mid E7WC the balance patch dropped. It completely flipped the E7WC meta on its head, and everybody was complaining about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anybody would be complaining about it this year. If you do, you're kind of capping,
Yeah, that's fair.
right? I think that's a fair take. And then as regards to
Mm-hmm.
like what playstyles are like viable, right? I do think, right, certain playstyles, for example, standard and tank down hinge a little bit too hard on mediator core. I think that's a fair take,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
I think if you don't have mediator core, it is a little bit hard to play slow. I'm not gonna lie. So for newer players, it's understandable, right?
Mm.
But if you look at every single, for example, we were talking at the beginning of the podcast, right? If you look at every single different region has a pretty well-defined play style. For example, like let's look at Korea, right? Almost all of Korea is playing tank down, right? So it would just be two like a support, tank support, and then two carries on 4-5, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the Korean play style. If you look at Asia, very cleave heavy, right? You see two people go up against each other, right? Elf Mage versus AXGG Brother Y, right? You know these fellas are getting in the car. Elf Mage versus DYR, you know they're getting in the car, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
anybody watching who doesn't know what that means, when two players get in the car, they're picking top speed units, they're picking speed imprints, and they're just saying, I'll race you, right? And you go to global, right? You have this really interesting flex between standard and aggro, right? You have like this Jinte style opening where you're going DN Stenny, you can go slow down into Knight plus Alencia and just kind of play standard and bruiser it out, or you could be like Godless AB where you pick a similar flexible opening, right, and then you just pivot upwards into aggro, right? And I think like that's where um obviously because I play mostly within the global community, I think like global has the most interesting meta. If you look at Europe matches, right, it's a interesting mixture between, I would say, Asia's meta and global's meta, and Japan is like an interesting mixture between Asia's meta and Korea's meta, right? And that's kind of my observation with each one of the regions heading into E7WC. And I think that's more than proof enough that every single playstyle right now kind of has its place.
Yeah, I agree. And that was actually one of the interesting things that I thought, like, in E7 World Cup, right? Is that we saw the Korean players first. And, in like discords and stuff like that, you'll see people, they're like, oh no, every time I face a KR player, I get cleaved, and they have like the best speed RNG and all this other stuff. And then you go into the E7 World Cup, right? And every one of the KR players just plays this like safe standard tank down. And I'm kind of like, yeah, man, like I don't actually like get cleaved by KR players. I'm like, do you guys just not know which type of moon runes are on your screen? Because like, I could understand getting confused, but by KR and Asia server players, because like, yeah, if I run into like an Asia server player, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna probably get cleaved or speed aggroed or something like that. But I do really find it kind of interesting, to your point, that yeah, every region kind of has this like play style, and I think that's actually really, really neat. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, like in the in the main stage matches.
Yeah, and it mostly goes towards, like, for example, right, most global players, I would say competitive global players hang out in Discord and hang out on Twitch. So people on Discord and Twitch will kind of pick up on like, oh, this is how the game is played,
Yeah.
right? You look at like players in China, they'll hang out on Bilibili and they'll hang out on WeChat, right? So whenever E7 is talked about on Bilibili and WeChat, everybody's cleaving. And I'm assuming like, for Korean players, they hang out on like, what do you have, like Kakao Talk and Naver, right? I'm sure like most of the time when people talk on those forums, right, they're going to be talk about, okay, what can we pick so our drafts are super safe, right? So that's kind of where like this divide happens. And when everything kind of comes together at the highest end of ladder, we'll see this really interesting divide, right? And that's not to say like Korean players don't cleave or Asian players don't play counter or global players don't know how to like go super high end or low end in terms of speed, right?
Yeah.
Obviously that's going to happen, but for me, I play, I would say on average maybe about 800-900 games per season, right? And that combined with like a bunch of other friends' data, if you aggregate all of them, most of the times, right, you can tell there's this split where Korean players are playing really safe, Asian players are playing really fast, global players are playing like more towards the middle standard with maybe a bit more flexibility.
So the real question is, and we'll move on from E7 World Cup, which was the original thing that we've split off from about half a dozen times here.
Right.
Ace, who do you think's going to win it?
Well, I'm repping for my boy Hui.
Oh, that's my boy. That's the MC.
That's the MC, yeah.
Not of E7, but if you know, you know.
True.
Valky wants another vacation, dude.
No, I'm good. I don't need. I'm good.
But yeah, I'm repping for Hui, but Damn looks strong, Jinte looks strong, so we shall see.
All right, Valky.
So because I learn a lot from Jinte, so it's like I'm a ride or die type of fella, so I'm pulling for my boy Jinte. But his own words, he says, if it's up to luck, it's a 50-50 between me and December, which is a DYR, right? So they scrim each other all the time, and they go pretty 50-50.
That's fair. I'm actually rooting for DYR December because, dude, the testicular fortitude that he has to get that fucking shirt and just straight up drop those massive nuts on the table in the video where he just has the 2022 E7 World Cup Championship. Dude, I gotta go with that. You go with the MC. I'm gonna go with the villain because that was some villain behavior, and I absolutely loved it. That confidence, dude. That's he's got my vote right there.
Yeah, and just based off of information I hear, right, depending on how the meta swings from now till all the stages are played out, from my understanding, if the meta swings more aggressively, it's in Jinte's favor, and if it swings more defensively, like in a standard type of way, DYR usually has the advantage there.
Interesting. Cool. So moving on, let's talk about speaking about the meta. Let's actually move into talking about the collab characters. So we've got Ed, we've got Roy. We were talking a little bit about when the last time was that any of us watched any FMA before the podcast. It's been ages for me. I know it's been a little bit more recent for the other two of you. How do you feel about the collab being FMA? Let's start with you, Ace.
I was actually really surprised that they got a big IP until I talked to some friends that are like more into anime, and they say like, yeah, older animes, they sell their IP to collab all the time. Because I in my boomer eyes, view FMA as like one of the classic animes, right? It's like collabing with Naruto or collabing with like Bleach or something, right? But I guess because FMA hasn't been releasing like newer content, then it makes sense that it's something that they could get as a collab. So I was super surprised, and I'm really impressed by the animations. We'll just save the balancing for after, but yeah.
Really when I saw the S3s the other day, like yesterday morning. Oh my god, dude, I feels like Wednesday, like waking up for the live streams on Wednesday morning at like 5 a.m. like screws up the rest of my week because I don't think anybody should be awake at 5 a.m. It just is what it is. It's a dumb time to be awake. Unless you're about to go to sleep.
I fixed my schedule, like sleep schedule on Monday. I was pretty good Tuesday, and then Wednesday it's like, well, time to brick it all over again so I can watch the stream, make a YouTube video, and then
Yeah.
and then sleep at 7 a.m. again. It's nice.
Yeah, no, for me, like usually Tuesday night, I have to like lay down at like 9 o'clock at night and then wake up at like 4:30 in the morning because I'm gonna shut my alarm off like 3 times and then finally like roll out of bed at like 5:15 to like start streaming. And I'll tell you what, man, like thankfully Wednesday's stream was good, but like the last couple of streams that I wake up at 5:30 in the morning and it's literally just a 10-minute recap stream of the 1 minute recap video, and I'm like, bro, Mashu, I woke up for this, dude. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning for 10 minutes of content.
Oh no.
I want a refund.
That's why like I just stay up because I usually end stream 3 hours before the live stream, so it's like if it's 10 minutes, well, that's 10 minutes and I get to go to bed immediately, and if it's long, well, you do what you got to do for the content, right?
That's true. But this Wednesday, no, when they showed those, I was like, bro, I'm like, dude, this is pretty good. These animations are pretty sweet. The S3s are really solid. And yeah, to your point, Ace, yeah, like the older the anime, the easier it is to get like that collab, especially if it hasn't done anything recently, because they're like, oh man, what would be really cool is if we got some money. We haven't put out anything in a long time, man. Like, oh, we can make some money. We can make some money off of this. Fantastic. It's why like Fate Stay Night for a long time, like just collabed with anything. And anytime Fate Stay Night was gonna put out like a new movie, like when the Heavens Feel movies were coming out, guaranteed Fate Stay Night was going to be collabing with something somewhere, some gacha. Now FGO will never collab with anything, but like Fate Stay Night will put itself in tons of stuff. And I just wish that Epic 7 would pick up a Fate Stay Night collab. But Valky, how hype are you?
I mean, I'm decently excited, right? I think the series is unarguably one of the most highly regarded anime series of all time. When I first heard about it, I was like, I think there might be some art style differences, but I think they overcame that pretty well. All the characters do look pretty decent, especially a few of their artifact arts look pretty spicy. Yeah,
their artifact arts are really nice. The one thing I will say is the live 2D for a couple, like especially Roy, just looks a little out of place. I feel like they didn't do the shading very good. Like it struck me as weird like right away, and then like I looked at it some more, and then somebody brought it up in like my comment section that like the shading was off. Then I looked at it again and I'm like, it just like the live 2D looks a little out of place, but at the same time I don't really stare at the live 2D very much. I look at the S3s.
It's the S3 animation when you're playing the game, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're gonna ask the streamer if they look at the S3 animation more or the stats page more, and most of the time it's gonna be the S3 animation.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, for sure. For me, like when it came out, I was kind of like, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and I was like, when was the last time that this was relevant? I'm like, because for me, I really would have liked an Overlord collab. I thought it would have went really well with the timing, considering the new season and everything like that. Plus, I just really wanted like an Albedo and Shaltier in the game. That was just really what I was on some heavy hopium. But I mean, I think it's good. I think it's kind of interesting that these are we're getting this is kind of the opposite, right? It's backwards. We're getting 2 male limited characters, and the female is the free unit. It'll be interesting because I know a lot of the the Coomer user base is like, oh, Epic dead. They're just releasing dudes. Nobody wants dudes. I think that that's completely incorrect. I mean, some of the dudes in this game are the most badass dudes ever. I remember when Charles first released, and I was like, bro, I gotta have that dapper daddy in my life, man. Like, let's fucking go. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you consider most of like the Coomer community, right? They're like 14-year-old to like 22-year-old like male, and it's like, let's be honest, right? I'll just put myself on blast first. Like when I was that age, the world besides me didn't exist. Like I was a selfish prick. So it's like,
True.
if it ain't got titties, I don't want it. You know, like so it's like that's a natural response from that community. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
for
I also
sure.
say it makes sense in FMA collab that there's no female besides Lust. If they released Lust, maybe it would have been a bit too Coomer, and it's like the whole Arya fiasco. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
with other female characters in FMA, they actually didn't play a big role in the story. You could argue like Ed's teacher, but I guess her design is somewhat like tame, kind of like not too flashy, right? So it makes sense that it's Roy and Ed, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, the
I
entirety
feel
of
like-
MMA,
yeah.
FMAB is like that, right? Where it's like it's not about the fan service. It's all about like the plot and what happens in the story, right? There's a few like I think outside of Lust, like no real female character is like even super revealing looking, right? There's like Armstrong's sister that was like a very attractive looking character, but she's more strong than she's attractive, right? That's kind of the whole point of the series, right? It's about the story. It's not about like, oh my god, like I have such a stiffy right now looking at like people from this. Like, no, it's not about that.
Yeah, plus I mean the other thing too is like you put an FMA collab together, like if you didn't have Roy and Ed as characters, like that just wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, like the two most important characters in the entire series, really, like the most probably well known out of all of them. Like yeah, you could put some, you could put Winry in there, and people would be like, yeah, okay, that's cool, but like where's Ed at?
Okay, hear me out. They put Winry in, right? And Winry, it's just a skin for Shu. And instead of dropping the rat, you drop like the armor set. Like that's it. That's all you got to do, right? The entire character can get ported over. You like skin over some animations, right? I got you guys. Like SG, hit your boy up.
Yeah.
I'll do some good work for your skin design team.
In the anime, is Roy that important? Because I feel like Scar was more important.
I mean, I feel like if you talk to like pretty much any FMA enjoyer, Roy is pretty top.
I would argue Roy had bigger scenes than Scar.
Bigger scenes, but I think like Scar drove the plot forward. Roy was just sort of. I gotta rewatch it. It's been a while, but that was just my.
Dude, I mean, come on, Roy had the whole like the rain scene.
Yeah,
he's a more iconic character. Yeah. Let's put it that way. You can't argue that.
Yep.
Yeah.
He had way more marquee moments. I would even say he had like on par amounts of marquee moments than Ed did.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of intense, right? Coming from like a not a side character, right? One of those secondary characters.
Scar is pretty top. Well, yeah, but I also feel like. Yeah, see, that's the tough thing, right, with collabs, is that no matter what they collab with, the fact that they only have so many limited units to put in, like, you're always going to have... I mean, could you imagine if they did a One Piece collab, Valk? Like,
oh god, you're gonna need 9 new heroes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, you would have, because you put in Luffy, you have
to put in Zoro.
Yeah, you have to put in Zoro, and then people will be like, okay, but like, what about Sanji? And then you have to put in Nami because, well, titties.
You need a female,
and
right?
Then you need Robin as well because Robin's really important.
Right, and if you're trying to be relevant, Frankie, right, you got to put in Jinbei because Sanji and Zoro, and you got to balance out the 3 commander dynamic.
Right, absolutely.
So that's already 6. That's mandatory.
And if you don't put in Frankie and Usopp, then I mean, you know, you've got to put both of them in, because you know, even though Usopp is, you know, is kind of campy, it would be God Usopp. That would be who they would have to put
Oh
in.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It would be
Soga
God
King.
Usopp, right? Yeah, and then you'd have Frankie, and then I mean, you know, you can't forget Chopper. You know, Chopper's S3 would be like Tamarin, where he would go into Monster Point.
Just don't
and
make
then
him like
just-
more.
Yeah, you know, so yeah, it's tough, because no matter what collab you put in, somebody's going to be like, oh well, why didn't they put in Shion? Yeah, why didn't they put in, why'd they put in Shuna instead of Shion? Yeah, Shuna, who asked? Yeah, who cares? Why didn't they put in, yeah, why didn't they put in why didn't they put Shion in that one? You know, oh hey, when they did ReZero, why didn't they put in you know, why didn't they put in Betty instead of, you know, this other unit? Like, yeah, you know, so you're always going to have that problem whenever it comes to any sort of collab. You're always going to want to have somebody who's going to be like, bro, where's Benny Maru at? Yeah, I mean, actually I would have been a big fan of Benny Maru, actually, because Benny Maru is a fucking badass, you know. But yeah, you're gonna have so many units that people will be like, well, what about this unit? Well, like, what about that? You know, what about, you know, my one favorite dude? What about Bellamy for One Piece? You know, the spring dude, and people would be like, wait, who? Yeah, like, what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. When you drag in the words "what about," essentially, because I don't want to like make it about politics, but like I come from a politics background. When you start using the words "what about," your argument for anything is almost always immediately invalid.
Yeah, because you're like redirecting the issue, right? You're
Yeah,
making
yeah.
it about
You're
something
not
else.
focusing on the issue here. Like if you want to
Yeah,
address the
yeah.
issue, like you don't ever lead into anything with the "what about."
Right. Yeah. So I mean, Sailor Moon collab, hell yeah, dude, let's go. Well, we already got that with Magical Girl DN. Dude, her lobby animation is so adorable. I'm super excited for that skin.
Yo,
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
watch
yeah.
that video.
Dude,
I actually didn't watch that video.
Yeah, her lobby animation is adorable. I like Ed's lobby animation as well. Like they're going pretty peak on some of the lobby animations, but I think overall, you know, I think that the collab's going to be pretty good. From what I saw of the multipliers on Roy, they're kind of mid, and I actually feel like his kit's like really weird. I do like the fact that he has like built-in counter. Like his ability is super good, but the minute that he gets touched by Shu, it's gone. I think that's actually kind of cool.
I mean, I think
yeah.
he's the most thematic character in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The fact that he can't deal anything with water, and the fact that his entire kit revolves around him soul burning S1s, like snap, snap, and then boom, you drop the big one, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I honestly think that Ed is the winner. And Ed's artifact is the absolute winner of the collab. That's his artifact. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, bro, I don't even care about triple S-ing Ed. I will triple S Ed on the way to getting like 3 full maxed out copies of that artifact. I think that artifact is going to be omega toxic on a lot of the meta warriors.
Right, but when Shu counterattacks, it doesn't count as an extra attack, right? It has to be the
but when
S2
you
cost.
XDD them, it's an extra attack.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's not going to be as good on Shu as it will be on Alencia. Like I think it'll be literally best in slot on Alencia. But the XDD will the S1 S2 will count as an extra attack.
I think it'll be insane on injury Alencia.
Yeah.
Because it mitigates your speed loss from not having a speed set, while on top it ramps your crit damage over time in a longer game where injury is already really good.
Yep.
The only stipulation is you do have to play a decently high tempo support core to really enable the artifact to catch its value as early as you can.
Yeah, but right now I was looking at the warriors that have extra attack procs, right? Because I had a maxed out Alentinox Wrath, right? And when they announced the buff, I was like, oh no, my free 60 GS is gone, right? And they were saying, like, well, now it works, synergizes with a lot of warriors with extra attacks. I was thinking, weird. Only Alencia actually really extra attacks. So right now, it seems like only Alencia and Ed can use Ed's artifact pretty well. But I
Okay,
guess it's a pretty
let me put it this
future-proof
way, right?
artifact.
So
Yeah.
the whole thing with Shu is when you play Shu, right? This is what I feel.
Mhm.
If your Shu isn't being an XCD, you're gonna lose. It don't matter,
Mm.
right? So whether or not your artifact activates or not doesn't matter. But when your Shu is already being an XCD, that artifact is supreme value. So I
Yeah,
think
so
it might
she'll
even just be a
snowball
better
real
artifact
hard.
on Shu.
Right.
Yeah, when she's already starting to snowball, it'll just allow her to snowball even harder.
Yeah. Outside of those three, there's no warriors that extra attack, right? Unless you like bought the
There's a good amount of them, but they're all like cope answers, you know? Like, oh, I have
stole.
Fire Shermia, like, woohoo!
Yeah, I was just gonna mention Fire Shermia because of the skin, and then I saw some people using her in RTA for like a week, but it was pretty cope.
The thing too,
I
though,
wouldn't
is
call it
like,
pretty cope. There's a pretty good reason to be using Fire Shermia there.
yeah.
That's
But
fair,
I
dude.
think the other thing too, though, that you have to take into consideration, right, is future proofing your account, right? Because a lot of times you'll have a limited artifact come out, and you're like, this artifact's okay.
Yeah.
This artifact's all right. I'll grab one of them, and then they release a couple more characters, and you're like, holy shit, dude, this is the greatest artifact on like half a dozen characters, or this new one, but I've only got one, you know. So for me, I'm gonna try to get, like, I want one max copy for like minimum. And then I'd like to have one for Shu. Wouldn't it work on LAC? She's not an extra attack, she's an extra turn. So no, it wouldn't work on her.
But
But
when
yeah,
you bring that up, we're all thinking about Tooth, right? Like,
yep.
bro, when Tooth came out, and it wasn't even best in slot for Luna, and I was thinking, like, why would I? Yeah, Gunther's cool and all, but I have other ways to deal with, like, Rylet. Bro, I regret not. It's led me to pre-banning Hwa because I only have a plus 15 Tooth, right? And I don't want a bottle because I want to be efficient. But yeah.
Dude, I've actually been a Tooth enjoyer for a really, really long time. When Rimuru first came out, I ran this like weird, like high attack Tooth Rimuru. Is like I've had like a plus 30 Tooth for ages, because I actually got mine like when Luna first came out. It was on the Luna banner, and I triple S Luna when she first came out, so I already had like a Tooth, and I used it here and there. And then yeah, when Rylet came out, I was just like, boom, Tooth on Gunther. This is the best thing ever. I fucking love it. And so I actually like have 2 plus 32. Like I used them. Maybe it was copium, but I was like, you know what? I've got this Tooth. I'm gonna make it work, and it actually worked pretty okay on Reamer when he first came out. It added a lot of extra like pop damage to the end. I liked it, but yeah, so I've been a Tooth enjoyer for ages, and now I just sit back with my 2 plus 30 Tooths, and I laugh at Toothlets. People that never got Tooth, thought that Tooth was bad. They dusted teeth. I was like, man, that sucks, dude. Yeah.
I think
That
foddering
sucks.
any 5-star in Epic 7 is like a pretty bad decision, because Epic 7 has a track record of, if it's not playable now, we'll make it playable later. Like, Epic 7 will very rarely waste your money or resources like that.
What about Iron Fan?
For the
What about
longest
Iron
time,
Fan? Yeah. So actually, somebody on Reddit actually once questioned me for saying the exact same thing, right? And I'll retort with this: I have 2 top 30 legend frames for Arena because of Iron Fan. So it's like that's worth to me. I have a plus 30 Iron Fan.
Yeah, I got a
They're
plus
like,
30
what's
Iron
Iron
Fan
Fan
as well.
paying you to say that? I'm like, 2 top 30 legend frames. So I don't know. I guess that's good enough, right?
Yeah. But
Like some people are like, oh, guiding light. How many frames do you have with your guiding light?
Yeah. But like back in the
Right.
back in the day, right? Before they started buffing artifacts, a lot, I dusted so many Alexa's baskets.
Yes,
Because
on the
Alexa's
first APOC
basket-
Ravi Mystic banner with Pity, I hit eight Alexa's baskets on my way down to the bottom, and I dusted every single copy for Elber's Ritual Sword, which was
Dude,
in the powder shop
yeah.
in the same month. I remember this so clearly.
Yeah, oh no, same. Yeah, that's why I have almost 5 maxed out Elber's Ritual Sword, because I had so many Alexa's baskets. I also had a lot of Iron Fans because I pulled like real hard on Bologna when she first came out.
Yeah. How is Iron Fan responsible for my legend frame? I got it for the 2 seasons. Rem was on every single defense.
Yeah. But like before they started buffing artifacts like regularly, like I just dusted so many Alexa's baskets because I was like, bro, this artifact is garbage, dude. This thing sucks so bad. And so I dusted a whole bunch of Alexa's baskets, and then they changed it, and I'm like, okay, from now on I will never dust another 5-star unless I have at least one maxed copy of
one max copy. Yup.
Yeah,
Same thing happened with Merciless Glutton. Look at me now. I'm swimming in Merciless Gluttons.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah, when Doctor's Bag first came out, I'm like, you know what? This thing sucks ass, but I'm not going to run into another Alexa's basket. I'm not going to sit here and dust all of these Doctor's Bags and, you know, have them turn around, because I guarantee you it would have been immediately after I dusted them. They'd be like, oh, hey, by the way, this isn't even a balance patch time. We just noticed that Shotgun Shogun dusted all of his Doctor's Bags. We're just going to make it super broken now. And he's also never going to pull another one. And we're not going to put it in the artifact shop. Just gonna throw that out there. And I would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
whoever
sweet.
dusted, you know, their Merciless Gluttons, Double-Edged Decrescent, Doctor's Bag, for those to get the buff, so now I get to play some really fun builds. Thank you so much. I appreciate you out there. Love you forever.
Yeah, no.
I think I realized the importance of like artifacts. Okay, before Summer Assyria release, right? I think that was the banner where the hero was only functional with the artifact. Before then, you could argue like Elbrus on like Green Charles, but I did feel like, you know, artifacts are somewhat flexible. You can kind of cope with artifacts on heroes, but I think ever since Summer Assyria, we've had like F10 artifact buff and how it synergizes with Amaru, right? We've had like Tooth. I can't think of some other examples, but it's like artifacts are super important to make certain heroes playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty toxic. Like you can argue there's certain things that SG does that's like pretty unhealthy and toxic, and as far as making people spend or you know, as such, right? That's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, Summer Assyria, if you don't play with a at least plus 24 copy of her artifact, she feels pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And even when you max out her artifact, right? Dude, she still gets 15% on the artifact. Like, oh god, when you burn and then you see the resisted line come up, you're just like, yep, that's my life now.
Yeah, one of the things that I hate the most is when an artifact has to be plus 30 to be functional. Like I think
that's another one of those toxic things.
Yeah. Because it's like when Drink first came out, and it's like if you didn't have a plus 30 Drink, don't even bother, because it's never gonna proc. Like it's just never. Is it 29 plus 29? Yeah, it's never gonna proc when you need it to. Like Drink was one of those like plus 30 or bust types of artifacts. Whereas like, you know, I really like it when they have things like, you know, like Draco Plate, right? Like a plus 15
Draco Plate or Mature Sunglasses. I take a plus 15 copy. You know, like, yeah, you might get whale diff like a game here or there, but you don't feel that bad, right? I'm just holding 2 copies of plus 15 Mature Sunglasses, and it feels pretty good.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's like the big thing with artifacts. Like anytime I see an artifact where it's like, oh, it ramps up to 100% chance, I'm like, I hate this artifact. I hate everything about it, because again, yeah, if it's not 100% chance, might as well be 50-50, right?
Yeah. You could argue they're trying to make money for the game and all that, but look, the artifact secret art, like Green Celine's artifact, right?
Yep.
There's a damage increase and there's a chance to increase attack. They both increase as you bottle it. That's the problem. Why can't you just make the 100% chance for the attack increase regardless of level? It just makes
Yeah.
it so that, oh, you can just lose maybe 30% of your games because you didn't whale. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a real issue for like if you're trying to push legend, right? It creates that difference where if you're trying to push legend, it makes a huge difference. If you're just trying to play emperor, right? I think like the amount of games requisite to play for emperor is a lot less, as such that it doesn't become that big of an issue. But it really does feel bad, right? At the end of the day, right? If you run a plus 24 copy of like Secret Art Storm Sword, it doesn't proc and you lose because of that. I mean, what can you do? You top right, go next.
Yeah, basically. Oh, going back to the characters though of FMA, do you guys want to talk about Riza?
Oh, we can talk about her a little bit. I don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I think actually for a free unit, I think that she's pretty good.
She's one of the more interesting free units, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like Soul Dead Guy, like sits in your box, right? Shuna sits in your box.
Look, man, Soul Bad Guy, when he first came out, was an absolute giga chad. That man carried so hard in raid. Like, yeah, it wasn't even close. He was literally, when GG first dropped, you put a Daydream Joker on Soul Bad Guy and he melted everything in normal raid. Like, he was best in slot normal raid, absolutely, hands down, unequivocally. He just absolutely melted everything. But who cares about normal raid anymore?
Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't playing at that time, but that's interesting to know.
He was also a super badass in Abyss. You know, look, man, back in my day, back when Soul Bad Guy was new and we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to refresh the secret shop for accessories because that shit didn't even drop in Wyvern. You know, Soul Bad Guy carried me super hard, man. Soul Gas, he was an absolute giga chad. You know, he earned his time off. You know, now I've got like 17 copies of.
Well, Grandpa Shogun. I'm curious if Cirilla was ever good during her time.
Good in your lobby.
Yeah, definitely good in your lobby. Yeah, she was good for something. For that live 2D. You know, not only that, but that string that's holding her top together is probably one of the strongest materials in the known universe. I would almost be surprised if designer Lilibet and top designer Straws wouldn't go talk to Cirilla to be like, man, I need to know what kind of thread that is that's holding those things together, because I want to make a dress out of it or something like that. I mean, Cirilla was actually pretty okay for certain things. I don't think that she was ever like giga meta. She wasn't like, you know, super good for PvE, but she wasn't a bad unit. She was actually pretty okay, like at times in arena. She had her uses, but like she was never like super meta, not like Xeno when
the real loser of the free units is Xeno.
You know, the thing that upsets me a little bit about Xeno is like canonically Xeno is fucking OP as hell. Like when it comes to like the canonical like power level, Xeno's fucking nuts.
Have you ever seen the original like arena cutscenes?
Yeah.
Xeno like basically like was like the strays of another universe, and he like destroyed everything in that universe. So he's like, I need to go to another universe to fight the people who are strongest there. And that's why he was like supposed to be the final boss of arena, and then he just got turned into a free unit that you farmed and did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Why did they make the final boss like so ugly?
Dude, well, I
Weird.
mean, yeah, he's ugly, but he's, you know, a badass monster dude, and he's got a cool, like, weird worm shark thing. I mean, his S3 is
okay.
pretty fucking badass, but like,
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
they were like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, here's your free unit that's meh. Yeah, you know, it is what it is, right? Yeah, it sucks, man. I wish that they, yeah.
Yeah, but so Riza actually, or Riza, I don't know. I watched the subs. How would you say her
Riza?
name?
Riza.
Riza?
I think the official way to say it in English is Riza.
I mean,
Okay.
we can say it however we want, right? Because however you say it is the right way, and everybody else is just wrong. Just tell them they're wrong.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Noted. But yeah, Riza, I feel like is a combination of Trozet plus Dilibit. I think she doesn't need to be built with ER, and she'll cleanse the important buffs like when you're getting crowd controlled. I mean, if you're thinking about Summer Assyria Cleave or being Payrad with some follow-up, right? It's always the initial attacks that are applying the most impactful buffs, and then the fact that she can cleanse that from herself and then the front line, like, it's not bad. It's just the fact that she offers damage for herself rather than mitigation for the front line. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the fact though that she brings like a single target POV to your frontline tank potentially, or whoever else you want to put there, I think that's really big because that frees up, like, you know, you can't run two POVs on the same team, right? But this way you have an additional POV.
Oh.
Yeah, since it provides the 30% damage mitigation on your front line. I mean, that allows for a tank or like a very special, like a certain target that you want to have get that 30% damage reduction, and it's going to potentially make your Arius holder, whoever your tank is, that much more sticky, right? Because now not only are they going to be a heavy defensive unit, but they're also going to have 30% single target damage reduction. So now you have potentially a POV Ravi on the side or in the back, and then you've got, you know, a POV on, you know, whoever else you want, like a single target POV in the front. And yeah, if it's a high priority target, now they've got to go, do I want to get this under 50%, provide Hawkeye to Riza, you know, cleanse debuffs? Like, you got to kind of like, that'll add another layer of like strategy and stuff like that.
Wait, this unit is God. So before you started talking, I was under the assumption that she just cleansed. But I'm watching the video right now, rereading
Yeah.
it. She decreases. Okay, this unit is God. Okay. Anyways, I'm building this. All
Yeah,
right.
no, I think for a free unit that she is really really solid, honestly. Like, I don't think that she's like giga OP. I don't think she's going to do a shit ton of damage or anything like that. I do find it interesting that like her abilities and stuff like that, you know, try to like supplement her damage, like they increase her damage like a little bit here and there. I think that way you can build her more, you know, more supporty, and then they have to decide, do I focus on this high priority unit that's getting this damage mitigation, or do I focus on Riza to take that damage mitigation out before going in on this other unit, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that like really stood out to me was that she mitigates it for the front unit, right?
Yep.
And the most blatant thing about that is that's a PvE unit because PvE mobs will more likely attack your front unit.
Mhm.
So I mostly expect to see her usage in, you know, stuff like expeditions, stuff like probably Abyss when that gets updated again. But you know, I'm not like creative enough to come up with the you know, use PvP usage for the hero before I get them in my hands, right? I'm like a
Yeah.
hands-on type learner.
You know
And
what
especially
I
when she
saw
was
some people
revealed
talk
at
about?
like 3 a.m., like
Yeah.
I was too tired to really come up with
Oh yeah,
anything.
yeah. 3 a.m. brain is not really, you know, isn't really thinking too much. But like, hey, yo, what about Bad Cat Armin and Riza, and you just absolutely giga juice your front unit? Like, you just juice that front unit up. Not only do they have 30% single target damage reduction, But like if you AoE, then they're gonna counter attack with crit damage. Like you just focus. You could have a whole brand new style of 3 protect literally this first unit. But like if you think about it this way too, for you, Ace, like you put Ross in the front unit, or in the front slot. Ross protects your back unit, so now you have Riza protecting your Ross, protecting your ADS, right? A lot of times I find that a Hwayoung is gonna take out my Ross first, and then they're gonna work on whatever unit Ross was gonna be protecting. Now Ross has a 30% single target damage reduction and Arius, and now they can't really take out my ADS or any unit behind Ross, because well, then they'll just trigger the shield. But now they can't take Ross out because he's got a proof of valor and Arius and a ton of defense and everything like that. So it can really help you bulk up a lot.
Yeah, I think while you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, well, if my DPS is debuffed heavily, maybe Roz isn't as helpful, but if she protected Trozit or something,
yep,
then you get a cleanse into a cleanse. Like that's pretty powerful too, right?
True. Yeah. How do you build her though, since they'll target her first? Fat, make her thick. Yeah, make her heavily defensive. Hell, if you're not using Proof of Valor Ravi on your team, put her on Proof of Valor. Now she's got 30% damage reduction. Oh yeah, you could run her on Guiding Light as well, and then they can't kill her. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true and real. So now she's providing, mitigation for your front team. She's on Guiding Light. If they hit her, she's just going to be cycling super fast because she's going to have Hawkeye on, which is going to increase her speed. She's going to give herself speed buff. She's going to be able to cycle real fast. I think it'll be interesting. And like I said, I think for a free unit, it's a good unit, even if it's just a PvE unit, right? Like
even for a PvE unit, she's got a really interesting kit. And it's gonna take somebody like at least more creative than me to use her. I'm more about like taking meta stuff and then refining it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean realistically, at the end of the day, even if she's just mid, guess what? She was free.
Like you get a free nice PvE unit that's at least usable in expeditions. Can't complain about that.
It's like when you get approached, you get shouted down in Costco to try whatever sample. Like, okay, well, this is some weird blue cheese. Had it, don't like it too much. All right, bye.
Yeah, but it was free. I didn't have to pay for it.
Free 99, we take those.
Yeah, better than paying for whatever it was. Like, oh man, this sucks, but at least it was free. Yeah, like I didn't have to pay $5 for this sandwich that was terrible. Yeah, it was a free terrible sandwich. It is what it is. You slap it on the bench along beside of your like bomb model Kana and like a half a dozen other units that you got for free that that look good, and you really wish you could use them, but yeah, it is what it is, right? For some reason she got a skin.
Yeah, and I'm curious, because Valky is more aggressive than us, a Shotgun, where it like Valky, could you use Roy? Like,
the way I see him being used is primarily as like a cleave DPS. So imagine a spot where somebody would draft like a BBK maybe, right? So if you think about it this way, right? Do you remember that while when Milim came out, right? Light did this draft where it was like he just drafted book aggro, and then he would just CR push this Milim, and Milim would burn 3 times, and then you S3 somebody, and then wahaha, right? And then it was really flashy. Right, I think Milim has the advantage so far as she's very good at nuking out one target and then putting extinction on them, and then Wahaha is like kind of the cherry on top, right? Whereas Roy is more focused on just having like boom single target nuke, and then drop a pretty big S3. I don't think his multipliers are super impressive, but I do want to remind
looked a little mid.
I mean, mid multiplier, but let's consider the fact that 1, he has the highest base attack in the game, right next to a unique buff that gave him another 20% attack. Like, I don't know. It sounds kind of okay to me.
I mean,
So
does he
I'm-
have the highest based attack when Hwayoung exists?
Oh yeah, I guess if you include the percentage based bonus for like the non-critical units, yeah, I guess they would be higher.
But like, so I'm terrible with just the numbers, but I'm curious how his S3 compares to, let's say, a Fire Cowrick S3, which is pretty comparable, right? Self attack buff. Like, do you know?
I'll look it up real quick.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, like-
realistically, tune into Shogun's channel tomorrow when he does damage by the numbers on all the FMA characters, because all of it's out, and I didn't have time to do it today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Well, Shogun, do you think you'll be using this unit? Because honestly,
I don't think that I will be using Roy, because Roy doesn't really fit my personal play style. I'll probably build him and play around with him, but I don't think that he's really going to be like my go-to. Ed though, Ed is absolutely my jam, dude. HP scaling damage, like we were saying earlier, Ed's multipliers and stuff like that are literally on par with a Ravi.
It's pretty nuts, yeah. Also, to answer your earlier question, if you don't consider Fire Caloric's speed scaling, Roy's S3 is about 50% higher.
Oh,
Damn.
wow.
That's
Wait,
a lot.
actually pretty.
If you multiply
Yeah.
the Paladin attack rate, right? Fire Caloric is 0.76, Roy is 1.08.
And okay, so they're both self-buffing attacks, so they probably both nuke out the Stene or Landy through Aureus if it's 50% more damage than Cowrick, yeah.
Yeah. It's about like it's just going to be like 50% more damage essentially. And his S1 hits considerably hard when he has his unique buff too.
Yeah.
It'll be
Would
interesting to
book-
see how it goes. I think that they're going to be like, the thing here, right, is I feel like a lot of these collab units are not as immediately like, oh my god, this is going to be the most meta changing unit ever, this is going to be literally the most godlike unit. Although, to be fair, I feel like every time we get a limited unit, half of the people are like, yo, this unit's dog shit, and the other half of the people are like, oh my god, I swear this unit is going to literally change everything you've ever known about everything you've ever known. This unit is the Raid Shadow Legends of limited units. I swear to god, this will change the whole meta. You'll never not see this unit. And then usually it turns out to like be kind of like in the middle, right? So it'll be interesting. I do think that we're going to see a lot of Ed. I think that we'll see people using Roy. I'll be interested to see how people use Roy. Riza maybe,
I think
yeah.
I was super terrified of this collab because every single collab so far essentially completely swung the meta on its head, right? It was either this hero's kit is so overloaded, like Dizzy's S3 at the time, no fucking hero can do that, and no fucking hero can stabilize against that.
Rest in peace.
To be fair though, when Dizzy first came out, a lot of people were like, hey yo, this is the biggest dog shit piece of crap unit ever. Like, bro, it misses on its S3. What do you mean? Yeah, it can't crit. It misses. Like the damage isn't that high, and I'm like, man, you guys, I'm like, it bypasses evasion, it bypasses everything. You can't miss because
Dizzy was 50% of the reason why immunity set is even a thing in the first place.
For sure. Like, everybody had to use SBA and Dizzy were like, yeah, you had to do it. But like, I remember when she first came out, everyone's like, yo, this unit sucks, dude. Like, it misses. And I'm like, well, yeah, but the modifiers are way higher to make up for the fact that she misses, and she can't not debuff you. Like
I
you,
mean,
yeah,
she of course she like misses. It doesn't matter, right? She lands all three
yeah.
debuffs. She lands the debuffs through dodge
Okay,
units
all
because your
right.
dodge
Look,
units are gonna dodge anyway, and then she's programmed to land the debuffs. Like, and
look,
these are three
Valky,
of the strongest debuffs in the game. Like, hello?
bro.
Yeah.
First off, people can't read and they can't comprehend half of the time when a unit comes out. That's why, like, I always tell people, I'm like, look, man, like that's why I rarely ever make a video building a unit within like the first couple of days that a unit comes out, because I'm like, look, if you think that you know the build 15 minutes after the unit comes out, this is the most godlike build ever, this will carry you to legend arena, and you've had the unit for 15 minutes, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. I'm never one to like rush okay, I just pulled this unit, I have to make a video about this.
To be fair, I did that about Hwayoung. I straight up took her to legend. The moment she came out, took her to legend. Somebody asked me, "Oh, is she a good unit?" I'm like, I don't know, man. You tell me. Soul
Okay.
burns Hwayoung, right? Kick a water unit, kills, and then you just
Yeah.
kick another one, kills. Like,
All right,
hey man,
so
you tell me, is this unit look good to you?
sometimes Valky, sometimes the video can make itself. Hwayoung is an anomaly, right? There's not too many other units that have come out that like literally day one you're like, this unit is a literal god. I mean, sometimes, but other times not so much. I mean, remember when ML Crow came out? Like, remember when ML Crow came out and everybody saw like his AoE horse damage? And they're like, bro, this unit sucks.
It's like
And then within,
4,000
like,
damage. That sucks.
yeah.
Like, hello's 4,000 true damage.
Yeah,
AoE,
4,000
like that's
true
16,
damage.
16k damage. Hello?
People were crying for ML Crow buffs literally like for the first week and a half that he came out. And I remember that I had a tournament like right after he came out. Like, he came out on like a Wednesday, I had a tournament that weekend, and he had, I think, like a 99% pick rate. Every single match had ML Crow in it, and I'm just like,
I remember
like,
when he was coming out, I was in a Discord server with Vinny. Other Legend Arena players at the time were trashing him. They're like, damn, too low. Me and Vinny were like, are these guys playing the same game we are? Like, this unit is so good. You play him into arena, right? SSB is on every defense team. You get to like just bike people every other turn, and it's insane. And if you soul burn, you're biking every turn.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I think like on a lot of units, like the initial opinions are not really that reliable, like mine included, right? You know, I mean, I take that back. My opinion's the only one that matters, and it's always right. I mean, I am right a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm not. Like, I remember I kind of called ML Lilius when she first came out. I'm like, she's
That's
good.
how I felt too, until I realized her S3 strips.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, ML Lilius by herself isn't that good. It's the follow-up, right? And that was something I always mentioned. I'm like, yeah, she's good, she's okay, but like, if you don't have something to follow up, then like, what good is it? Like, if you don't have the follow-up, like, she's not good in a vacuum, right?
And I think a part of it goes to like, for example, we'll circle this back to like when Arya came out, right? Everybody said Arya was like not good, right? Me and Elvermage are like, this is a tank. You just play her like she's a tank. You just replace the knight on your team and you play her as the tank. And people are like, well, she does no damage, right? And this kind of connects back to the thing you were talking about earlier. Like, as long as the unit doesn't do damage, people are just like, wow, unplayable unit. Like, dude, I had to describe her as a literal, just pretend she's the knight class, and that's all she's there for, right? And suddenly you pick her into Hwayoung, you pick her into A Ravi. If they don't ban, they are never killing a single one of your units.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of times people don't understand, like, that if you can't hit the other units and they just have free... Why do you think Spectre Tenebria is so good? If you can't hit her, she just gets free reign to just dump all over your team. Now, everybody except for Arya can't be attacked in the right situation, and they just dump all over your team. What were you gonna say, Ace?
I was gonna mention how I don't mind when people make, initial impressions, unless they label it or like they sort of frame it as like this is the best build, guys. Trust me on this. I enjoyed the initial content because it's like theory crafting, and it's just seeing how people like scramble and adapt to like a meta shift from units being released, right? That's like a part of V7 I really enjoy.
So I
Yeah,
won't say
and I
that
think
the person making the theory craft is the part that I dislike. It's the people that take that as gospel. They'll see one person make a video or talk about it on a stream where the person's like, I don't know, man. This unit's kind of mid. Not only that, but usually it's like a cleave player that's looking at a bruiser, and they're like, meh.
or
I don't
vice
know.
versa, right?
Yeah, I don't really
Yeah,
like this
I would say
unit.
like you really have to identify a hero's strength and weakness and kind of use that to figure out how they fit in a draft, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name any names here, but I stream almost every single new hero release, right? And then there are a few other streamers and YouTubers who do the same thing. There's one particular streamer for 3 to 4 heroes in a row where I was like, wow, this hero's pretty good, right? I think it was like that Sirmia stretch, the ML Sirmia, and a few follow-up units, right? For that entire stretch, I was like, this hero's pretty good. And then said streamer's like, wow, this hero's trash, unplayable, right? And then as you go down, right? And then you would have this streamers of viewers in my chat being like, well, he said this, and he's a bigger streamer, so he has to be right. And you would just have situations where it's like, I remember specifically saying the words, like, I went, I think something like 8-8 playing ML Sirmia on stream, right? And I was like, I'm pretty sure this unit is really good. And the moment the meta slows down, she's going to immediately take over, right? I said those exact words. And then people were like, no, you're just coping, dude. You spend so much money. You wailed and your hero didn't work out. Like, just admit it. And then like, look where we are today. Look what unit every Korean player is third picking. Like,
right.
That's what, yeah.
Dude, people will raw dog Sirmia into not even dual attack teams because you're gonna get 5%ed. It's the Rowana curse. And you also pick it potentially so that they don't pick it against you.
I don't like playstyle, but people do it.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, I remember there was like one time I was super confused because somebody like, I didn't even pick a dual attacker in any way, shape, or form. And they're just like, oh, I'm like, going to pick ML Sirmia and some protect. And I'm
like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I people talk and then I get cursed because I'm like, oh, they picked Sirmia into my single pick APOC. I'm going to punish this with FCC plus Zahawk. And then somehow it survives, you know, and then
game goes on long enough, you're gonna dual attack anyways.
I dual. Yeah, bro.
That's why when I play against her, right, especially against Korean players, one of the most common ways is I see that early, I'll try to pick some type of water unit or a water heavy team, right? I want to make him commit green units so I can fifth pick Fire Charlotte. Because Fire Charlotte can't proc dual attacks.
True.
I love doing that. Fire Charlotte and the fact that she can't proc dual attacks is starting to be a boon. It's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's always crazy too. Like one of my big things when like somebody like here, like another thing too, right, with tier lists and stuff like that. You'll see people put out tier lists. And then somebody will be like, well, this streamer or this person said that this unit is triple S. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy, man. They're a cleaver, so of course they're gonna put that unit at triple S. I'm like, that's not even a real question. I'm like, they have a completely different outlook on the game than I do. Yeah, I'm like, I'm a standard tank player. I'm like, my tier list is going to be completely different than Elf Mage's tier list because, you know, Elf Mage has 480 gear score on everything that exists, you know, which is going to be different than YD's tier list because YD doesn't build any. I don't know that YD has ever seen Banshee. I don't even think he knows what it does because I don't think he's ever actually been in Banshee, you know, and that's going to be different than, you know, Ace's tier list. It's going to be different than Shuffle's tier list because, you know, Shuffle's had a 7-hour video.
Shuffle's a prophet all along. Dude, triple S tier Alencia.
Triple S tier Alencia, dude. Man, I remember when Shuffles was doing tier lists, and I'm like, man, how does this dude got a 3-hour long video going over a tier list, but he did, you know. And I'm like, you have to take into consideration the play style of the person, the gear quality of the person. It's like everything is subjective. So that's why when somebody like takes somebody else's word, like when somebody takes a streamer's word as the absolute gospel, I'm like, you don't know how to play the game. Because
Epic 7 honestly is just way too open-ended as a video game to really for people to have like, okay, this tier list is like, this is how it goes, right?
Right.
When Epic 7 players put out a tier list, it's usually how I would describe as, with my playstyle and my gear and my unit pool, this is like my priority of like how I look at heroes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you take it as anything more than that, like, you're kind of, especially like for the people who are like, well, you know, why did you put Rimuru in triple S tier? So if you're not putting Rimuru in triple S tier, then you don't know what you're talking about. Like, if you're that type of person, like, you're really exposing yourself as you have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, the other thing too, right, is like people come into my chat and they'll be like, hey, how should I build this unit? And it's like, or they're like, well, what should I've got these 7 units, which ones should I build? And it's like, well, first off, homie, I don't know anything about your account in terms of gear. Like, I saw just today, I was in official Epic 7 Discord, and someone was like, hey, out of these 7 units, which ones should I build? And somebody was like, you should build Ran. And I responded with, if you have to ask out of these 7 units, which one should I build? And Ran is one of those. You don't have the gear to build Ida or Ran. You don't. If you're asking that question, you don't have the gear to build Ran, and you should actually just build something else until you have the gear to build Ran. And you will know when you have the gear to build Ran, because you won't have to ask me the question, should you build Ran? Because copium Ran is not worth your resources or time.
There's also the people who have a lot of speed gear, but somehow are under the impression that like you need to be 310 speed on every single unit to even play a cleave style. Pardon?
Yeah, if it's not 300 speed, is it even really a unit?
I have a single 300 speed unit, and I've been racing players faster than me all season.
Yeah, that's not true. You're just making that shit up.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely making it. I mean, I taught the same style to War of Flying. I'm sure he's also just kind of making up his.
First off, Valky, War of Lion, it only plays Mortellix, and he is not racing anybody with the great.
I thought he only played LRK. Hold on a second.
No, War of Lion only plays the great Mortellix, and he's not racing anybody with that.
Yeah, the week I took off from Twitch, like I was helping Oriflying build his account. I'm like, wait, your account's faster than mine. Like, why aren't you racing people? Like, you're like the 3 fastest units you have would be faster than the 3 fastest units I have.
Yeah, I have a 321 speed, and if I wanted to.
Jesus.
Nice.
Hey, its stats are dog. Like all the other stats are garbage, but like. I was playing around in Fribbles the other day, and I was like, you know what? I wonder how fast can I make this if I wanted to make this? And I'm like, oh, I got a 321 speed Ran if I wanted to. And I would make it, and then I would never use it because I've tried to like cleave before, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna go back to picking hand guy and Aros. Like how lose? Yeah, just pick hand guy Aros. How lose?
Yeah, I mean, people on the ladder, going back to Valk's point, like people on the ladder actually do respect speed contest a good amount, right? Like you like fight into like a pretty flexible player. Let's say in Emperor and Legend, whatever, if they see you slamming like Ran APOC, they either speed up, sure, but chances are a lot of them do tank down. They do just respect, okay, well, this is a Ran, it's probably 300 speed. So you could get away with like, you know, speed contests that are hovering around that speed, but might not necessarily break that 300 threshold, and you could still enjoy the game and push a good amount. So yeah.
I mean, there's also like, I think a lot of people are just like, how do I say this? Like they're very comfortable taking turn 2. Right? And it's like a lot of times, you know, you don't have to have insane speed gear. Not everybody in like Legend that finishes every season is running like 310 speed RAM, right? So some people are, you know, like myself, I'm barely 300, right? And some people are like, you know, not even 300, faking to be 300, and they, you know, they may or may not end legend, but they can hold the legend spot for most of the season, and I think that's fine, right? You just have
Yeah.
to play with
Yeah.
confidence. If you can race, you race, and if you cannot, you find out and you don't race the same guy the next time.
You know, and the other thing too is sometimes you speed RNG light E7 like 3 times in a row during the CCI, even though you're much slower than him.
To be fair, I think your top speed is faster.
No, I was
light?
talking about Elf Mage.
Oh
Wait,
yeah,
Elf
yeah,
Mage
yeah.
is
Yeah. I was
definitely
talking
faster,
about
right?
I was talking about Elf Mage outspeeding light E7.
But I
Yeah,
thought
actually,
Elves
like
top
I think
speed is
that if
faster now.
I made my RAN 321, I think I could also make like 2 or 3 other units like in the 305 like range, give or take. I actually like one day I should just re-gear my account for cleave and then just attempt to cleave and then immediately fribbles my account right back to where it was the next day after I after I sat in the shower and hated myself for, you know, a good couple of hours for being a cringe cleaver.
I mean,
Sure.
now's a pretty good time. It's free unequipped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like literally just sit there and be like, oh, I can't even like walk into the bathroom and not even look at the mirror. Like, oh, I can't even look at myself. I cleaved yesterday. Oh, gross.
I mean, I was definitely just watching a friend play like a more aggressive account, right? And just from watching them for a good amount of games, I learned about the weaknesses of that playstyle, and I think I improved on like my playstyle. So I think, yeah, if you have the chance, maybe hit up your brother or cousin. This is me talking to chat, and just like play some RTA games or watch them play some RTA games, or try the playstyle if you can on your account and the gear allows you. Try a different playstyle. You know, it's early on in the
Yeah.
season,
Like for
and you can
example,
learn a lot.
my RAN on my fastest gear cannot be 313 speed. Like you have a faster top speed than me, right? Experiment with your playstyle, or especially during free unequip. Like, what's the harm, right? Especially on a Saturday, right? Just, you know, if you're gonna play video games on a Saturday, right? Re-gear your account to play cleave, right? And you should be fine. Like my RAN is 307 speed, and that's my fastest unit. Yep, that's it. Can't get any
Valky,
faster.
do you know how long it took me to fribbles my account the last time? It took me like
Is it your first time?
3.5 weeks of
I
me
can see
just
that.
like I think it took me like an hour and a half like each unit as I like sat there and I'm like, hey, call what, how should I build this unit? Call.
Oh, you I don't know. If you
Yeah.
build like a tankier
Hey.
account, you can ask call, right? But I think
Yeah.
for like a cleave account, you gotta ask a cleaver because a lot of tuning stuff's pretty specific.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and for
Yeah,
people
I
asking me to
like
teach you,
the-
like pull up to my stream, you know, like I feel like I break down my drafts to why I win and why I lose pretty well most of the time.
Yeah, why do you think I streamed for 3 months straight? That was just my fribbles session.
Oh,
It was me just like every day I'd wake up and be like, all right, boys, today we're refribbles in the whole account. And by that I mean we're gonna spend 3 hours looking at gear to fribbles this A-Ravi. Yeah, it's true. Shinigami was there for the whole thing. Yeah, Brisker was there because I was playing Monster Cat.
and I thought I took a long time because my first ever Furble session took me like 12 hours, I think.
Damn.
It took me 3 days of streaming 4 hours a day, and somewhere in the middle, I had to completely restart because Kami pulled up to my stream and he's like, "Oh, you're
Drop
doing this
everything.
wrong." Yeah, I had to restart when I was like 30 heroes deep.
Oh,
Damn.
no.
Man, maybe I should ask Kami like ahead of time.
You could ask Kami, yeah.
Yeah.
Kami's been pretty busy. I know he's gonna be insanely busy for the next like couple of weeks, and he's been pretty busy for like I think the past 3 weeks, but.
Yeah, he hasn't
He's
been
one of
streaming
those guys
much, right?
that's like, if you just ask him and if he has the time, he'll always help. He's insanely nice,
That's
and
fair.
he loves numbers.
Yeah.
All right, guys, do you think I'm giving bad advice if I tell people who ask me, you know, about the collab, if I just tell them to all in Edward, man. All in Edward.
No, I think that's decent advice.
Yeah.
I think it depends on playstyle, right? I think if you play anywhere from tank down to aggro, yeah, all in Edward's fine. Because I think Edward is easily like the best hero of the collab.
Mm. So you're saying like Edward less suitable for cleavers?
I think it'll be harder to use because if you think about what it takes, right, for a Ravi to ramp up damage, stuff needs to die, which cleavers can set up. For Edward to ramp up damage, he needs to take multiple turns, which cleavers can't set up.
True. Speaking of cleave, though, and this will probably be the last topic because we've been talking for like over 2 hours, which normally I try to keep my podcast to like an hour, but I knew that wasn't going to happen today. Speaking of cleave, ML Pavel. Let's leave out here on ML Pavel.
So I want to bring up the point where I think the data mine came out for him last night, and then they imported it to math, and then the damage looked real bad. Okay, I'm gonna go on record to say this, and if I'm wrong, I will eat my words live on stream. If you think they designed a unit that needs to surpass its target's attack by 6,000 when you don't have like a attack boosting passive like Hwayoung, like if you think that's the correct way to apply that number, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like there is no way that is the correct way those numbers are applied, right? Like yes, it's all math. That doesn't mean that's the way the formula works, right? If you were here when Hwayoung came out, her numbers were applied wrong as well, right? People thought if you were 70% more HP than Hwayoung, she was going to max out damage on you. But in reality, it was about 7,000. It was more a flat number versus a percentage base. So whatever it comes down to, right? We're going to have to see live numbers. Same with like every one of these heroes. And you also know, they say like, you know, heroes are subject to change before official release, right? And even if it comes out, things can get like buffed and whatnot, right? Tamarin was terrible on release, and they had to buff her the first week, right?
I thought Tamarin in PvE was fine.
She was fine, but she was like, you had to manual her, and you had to like manage her soul burn. She was pretty hard to play.
Yeah.
Wait, Valk, does the fact that he gives himself attack buff, does it make it easier, much easier, or not really?
The difference is like, okay, so if you're hitting, let's say like an Aravi at 1800 attack, right? You had to surpass that by 6,000 attack, which means realistically, if you want the full 70% penetration, you would have to build your ML Pavel to 7,800 attack post attack buff, right? And to get that, you need reasonable. Like what, 5,000 times 1.5 from an attack buff, right? You actually need 5,000 like 150 if I'm doing my head math correct. And yeah, you need about. So you need about 5,150 to 5,200 attack on your Pavel naturally in order to do the 70% penetration.
Yeah,
does that sound like a reasonable number to be having on a unit?
Yeah, that sounds like some elf mage.
I think like the number's probably correct, but it's probably just applied to the formula wrong. And when the hero gets released, right? Because when Strays was data mined too, they gave out some hella jank numbers of how much attack he needed to have. You know, Hwayoung's the same. Like when you have these like interesting characters with new mechanics, like don't take that stuff at face value, right?
Let's say the def penetration is easier. Can we talk about, I guess, how viable this unit is for, you know, cleave, aggro, and then standard?
I think in terms of like cleave and aggro, he's going to be like, depending on like what his actual like live damage is, I think that he's going to be pretty nutty. Like literally free damage on his S2 into like a defense pen plus the 50% CR push is going to allow you to build him higher damage but a little bit slower, because yeah, all you got to do is have 2 crits, right? So like, you know, obviously like a Flitica, not that she gets like a ton of play, but like into like you know, an Ida cleave, Like
Yeah.
that would satisfy. There's a lot of enablers that you would be able to either, double speed like a green Sid, two fast units in order to trigger him, and then you just literally get that S2 to soften everything up into like a big S3. I think that for aggro and cleave he'll be really good. I don't necessarily know for standard, but I think that like if you played like even like a bruiser like Closer Charles, Bruiser Pavel, I think that they would be able to like CR push themselves around a bunch in like a standard play. But then again, I just recently got Closer Charles, so I am not the expert on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually
I definitely
scared.
think you can kind of play him in any of the faster play styles, right?
Yeah.
If you do play him in a slower play style, just go guiding light and you have to dodge AoE units, and that's kind of his draft condition. But in a faster draft, I think he replaces kind of where Caesarea and CDOM is, where they have a lot of self CR push, and on top of that, right, they have insane kill pressure against one target. That's kind of where I see him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a better, like, independent sort of uh connect follow-up for cleavers because Caesarea you need to rely on bombs and then it's a whole thing with like Destina and like hand guy being force bans, right? If we think about the other unit you mentioned, what was it? Ida?
Caesarea and CDOM.
CDOM. Oh yeah, with CDOM, I mean, you're sort of needing the souls, right? Whereas he's very independent. He could get, one of your cleave units could get acid, and then maybe if you have like the momentum still, like your cleave can still work, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. I'm scared for this unit. I think Valk, you were saying how all playstyles are viable right now, but I saw this unit and I just felt like, yo, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with this.
Yeah, because you can't landmine him, right? Like
No.
when I say landmine, you can't pick like Rem Violet, right? Because Bellion to some degree doesn't even work that well versus him because his big AOE comes from an extra attack which cannot be counterattacked,
Yep.
and he's designed to kill anchors, right? Which is usually HP scaling bruisers and such. So no A Ravi is safe, provided that his damage numbers does pan out. I think Lionheart Sermia a lot less safe as a pick, right? I think even like Edward's kind of in danger, just depending on what people's builds are going to be and what they need the builds to be.
Yeah, like the only landmines that I can think of would be Rimuru, that needs to be a bit tankier, or a Fire Maru. Those are the only two that could proc off of him, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to. If you cannot race a team, right, you're going to have to landmine a lot more alternatively, I would say.
Because
And I think if you play like the current Jinte style aggro, where you're playing like DN Steny or DN Alencia, right? You play a very fast, aggressive support. You probably have ways around that because when you kind of sniff that draft coming, right, you just start stacking speed imprints and speed contesters, and you just try to race them, right? My gear isn't the fastest, but when you can have the initiative to stack speed imprints against people, usually you can outrace them as long as they're not outspeeding you by like more than 10 speed.
yeah, sh- hmm, that makes sense. Do you think Roana or Elena would be decent?
Roana might not be bad, but it protects against the S. Actually, I think it protects against S2 really well because you can steal turns too. So, number
Yeah.
one way to protect yourself against cleavers, right? If you think about the best ways to anti-cleave is to steal CR. And that comes in the ways of Politis, Celine, Sage Ball, Designer Lilibet, and stuff like that. And if you pick Roana into that, like, wow, yeah, you'd be stealing a lot of CR and a lot of healing.
Mm. I think he could work in standard. Like I'm gonna pull for him depending on if the multipliers are good. But the idea of protect the queen comp, he's less weak to Steny's weakness is that she can't AoE. So then Landy checks Steny, right? But then Landy has less strong bursts. That's the whole thing where you were talking about, like it fluctuates between Landy or Stenny being the premier DPS, right? I think Pavel in a protect the queen comp, or protect the king in this case, he doesn't really have an AoE or nuke weakness. Like he can do both. So yeah.
That is kind of true. Yeah, he'd be able to kill tanks, and he'd be able to chip and knock stealth units out of stealth.
Yeah.
And I definitely think as long as you're maybe dodging the Landy matchup, because certain Landy has a huge build variance, right? You never know what she's gonna do. In a standard draft, right? In an aggro draft, you know it's a speed Landy. In a like a degen draft, you know it's a counter Landy and such, right? But in a standard draft, she could be on either side, and you just be like, huh, a little hard to play against.
Yeah, yeah. Besides that, though, he's pretty good into most DPSs.
Yeah, I think he'll be really good at bullying slower players, right? And
Yeah.
that's the key. If you want to cleave, you don't have to you don't need the fastest gear in the world, right? I can cleave certain players. I can cleave a lot of players, in fact, right? But that doesn't mean I can cleave everybody. All that means is I can cleave people who are slower than me, which is most players.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But do you think this ML Pavel's like assuming the multipliers are wrong from the math imported, but is this unit like way more meta shifting than let's say Ed or
Let me think about this for a second.
So I don't necessarily know that he'll be like giga meta shifting, but I do think that he'll be a really good addition to a lot of different. I think that we'll see him around a decent amount, but I don't think that like he'll be everywhere in every draft. All
I agree. Yeah. So this is how I think about it, right? If a unit is like you think about a realistic draft, right, of how this unit can pick, and I've theorized plenty yesterday with just friends and guildmates. I think most of us say he's probably picked as early as pick 3 and as late as pick 4 or 5, right? A pick 3 hero kind of fits under the description of what Shogun says, where they can deal with a lot of meta tools pretty well, but they're not going to be picked in every single draft. And to be able to be a meta shifting pick and to be pickable in every single draft, you need to be a first pick unit.
Yeah.
In the way of Landy, or not Landy anymore, but Stenny, Hwayoung, A Ravi, DN, C Lilius, Ran. Most of these units you can see in first pick, right? Hand guy, A Ross, right? These units you see in first pick, you're not surprised at all.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I agree that he can't be first pick. And I'm thinking about the condition of the 2 crits, and I guess in certain comps it is a bit harder to activate, right? Definitely you have to commit to a certain thing. But yeah, I was thinking this is still going to be pretty impactful for RTA.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Because I think
could
he
you
can be picked as early
imagine-
as pick 3. And
Could you
that's kind of-
imagine if his S2 triggered off of dual attacks? Like, could
Yeah,
you
no.
imagine him with C Lilius, you S3 into S1 dual attack double crit into Pavel S2 S3? That would be
that would be meta shifting, because every
Yeah.
single C Lilius, Wanderer Silk would just go crit neck now.
Yep.
I had to like be vibe checked because I thought it would proc off of S1 into S2. I was thinking Amaru S1 S2 triggers him, and I was like, "Yo, this unit is god." And then someone by the name of Ice told me, "Look at the preview video. Charlotte dueled alongside the Green Sid S1, and it didn't give him more focus." I was like, sad.
Yeah, the line also says it doesn't trigger off of dual attacks, counter attacks, or extra attacks.
I thought they mean the actual attack. I didn't know it would be the focus. So I was thinking S1 into S2 builds the focus to full bar, and then my knight can just do whatever, and it would still trigger him.
Yeah, if that was the case, he would be a meta shifting unit, and he would be first pickable every game, brother.
Yeah, that's true.
100%.
But I do like the fact though that like even if you're playing him in like an aggro, a speedy aggro, right? I was actually thinking about using crit neck ML Rin to trigger him. because
Oh,
you can crit the S3, get the extra turn, crit, and then you could trigger the Pavel. Like, I was thinking about a lot of different like speed openers that you could use that have like extra turns where it's actually 2 attacks, because like, yeah, your Para takes you could just S2 S1 with Para, but then you also don't have attack buff, mitigation, stealth, anything like that. And so I was like looking at other dual attackers, and I just wanted a reason to build ML Rin again.
yeah. Do you choose Ren over like Flitica just because of her base speed, or do you think she's more
Well,
impactful than Flitica?
well, yeah, base
It,
speed
it
for
has to be base
Okay.
speed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I think she
'cause-
has like 0 impact on the game.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of sad.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, this is like a year and a half ago when I first started streaming. I was talking to Platty and I was like, wow, I can build a ML Rin 290 something speed. And at the time, 290 something speed was pretty damn fast, right? And he's like, bro, he hits like his vape. He's like, bro, you're gonna think for like 2 games it's the best speed contester in the game, and then you're gonna get 15% in 1 game, and you're gonna immediately ungear her. Watch. So the very next game, right? I run into Shuffles, and Shuffles is trying to Flitica cleave me. So I pick ML Rin, right? And then I get 15% off my stun, and then I lose. And that was the first time I ever lost to Shuffles. And I was like, huh. All right, never mind. This unit sucks.
Patch.
But, maybe we give her a second chance, right? 2 games after that, I run into Gabe. I run into Sky King, right? And I'm like, oh, he's also going to Flitica cleave me. I drop my ML Rin. I outspeed him. I get 15% off my stun. And I say right there, all right, I'm gearing this unit.
Yeah.
Like, never again.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember like a long time ago, there was a tournament. I think it was like one of Cafe Kaz's tournaments, and I at the time like I built like I had a 300 something ML Rin. I put literally all my speed gear on it. I was like, bro, this is the time. I'm like, I'm gonna zoom all over people with this. And I went up against I forget who it was. I think it was Insane Gamer, who had just like this absolutely pog crazy Charles. And I came out the gate and I'm like, you know what? Boom. I strip no Charles Elbrus. I'm like, I'm gonna stun this Charles. I go to stun the Charles. I get resisted. He counterattacks S1, S2's my
Lord.
my ML Rin immediately deletes her, and I'm like, yep, it was a good run. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was a good run right there. Okay. Yep. Pass.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, she is what she is. I mean, she's super fun to use, but yeah, you're right. You get 15% on that stun, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
when I was a newer player, I put Ace. I would intermittently, like sometimes put Acid's gear on ML Rin instead, and I'm like, oh, she can do some chip damage, and she gives immunity to my team. Whatever, it's cool. But yeah, same experience. I would just think, huh, if I remove souls instead and just killed this unit, it'd be better. So weird.
Yeah. Yeah, but dude, when she pops off and she just controls everything, it's really fun.
Especially with RNL, yeah.
Yeah, when you've got RNL and you just pog all over everything and you're just RNLing all over the place, man, it's super fun, man. But yeah.
She walked so that Para can run, basically.
True.
Yup.
Yeah.
True. All right, boys. Well, with that, we've been podcasting, we've been people talking for 2.5 hours.
Damn.
Yeah, I remember like when you were like, "Oh, what are the topics?" I'm like, "Yeah, these are some topics, but we're just gonna peepo talk in different directions for the entire time," which we did.
Yeah,
So,
for any
yeah.
other podcast, I'd be like, bro, we have 2 topics. Are you sure? But like knowing you, knowing me, knowing AceTrainer, we're like literally the 3 biggest people talkers on twitch.tv/game/epic7. So it's like, I'm like, oh wow, are we gonna be fine for 2 hours? Like
Yeah.
we feel like we need a bit more time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. Yeah, like because I remember even like just me and you, Valky, like the last podcast, Like it was just like we just diverged off into so many different topics that it's like, yeah, all right, we could just keep going probably for like, you know, a couple handfuls of hours here, you know, but I've got some stuff I've got to do, and then I've got a work meeting in the morning. Or else I would just be like, all right,
Yeah,
well, let's just,
I got some account
keep
reviews to
going.
do today, and
Yeah.
then I'm playing Cult of the Lamb for variety later, so we're gonna make a
nice.
cult
Nice.
and see how that
Nice.
goes.
I'll
Yeah,
swing by
cool
for
deal.
that, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I gotta do
hopefully
my
we can
Genshin
get that
dailies.
started soon, so you can drop in and you know, maybe roll a character in my cult, and hopefully you're not one of the poop eaters.
oh
Okay, I'll
yeah,
try
I
not to
definitely.
be.
Well, wait, hold on. Is it free poop or do I have to pay for the poop?
I mean, you can just make it, right? And I'll just cook it for you and be like, here, have it.
Okay, well, hey, you know, free poop is better than poop I had to pay $5 for.
Yeah, free 99.
But
Yeah, free 99. Like, hey, at least
But
this might be
makes
a
the
shit
call.
sandwich, but I didn't have to pay for this shit sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Like
What's
he
up,
makes
Nate?
the call whether or not to like feed you poop or not. Like
I
he
mean,
has all the
like
power
you
here.
could ask me, right? If you're
Yeah.
guys like glorious leader, I have a dark desire. Please don't judge me, right? I'd be like, say less, my child. I have you undercover.
All right. But leading out, Ace, any last words? Where can people see you?
Just twitch.tv/AceTrainer E7. I stream pretty regularly around like maybe 2 hours or an hour from now. Before now is when I usually stream Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, dude. And Valky?
Thanks for having me on, Shogun. You can find me at twitch.tv/Valky and youtube.com/Valkyria Gaming, which is like the longer name. You'll see it on screen, and just add gaming to that. And basically, like, you can catch my streams, and you know, I like to play fast because I'm a very impatient person. And I try to break down all my drafts. If I win, I'll explain why I won. If I lose, I'll explain why as well. So hopefully, if you want to, you know, be one of those guys where, you know, just nerd, crunch some numbers, learn how to play RTA, yeah, I'll love to see you there.
Absolutely. And I'll have all the links to their information down in the description on this video when it gets posted. So, which it'll probably be up tomorrow. I'll start rendering it here in a little bit and then I'll upload it for tomorrow. But thank you guys for both coming out. Anybody who's watching this after the fact, like, fave, subscribe, and I'll try to do more of these. I know that they're super sporadic, but you know, it is what it is. I do podcasts when I remember that I do podcasts, and then I just hit people up and I go, hey, podcast Thursday, and they're like, hell yeah, brother. And so that's what we do. Thanks everybody from Twitch chat for coming out. I appreciate it. Next time, you know what, maybe I'll do Twitch chat questions again. I know I used to do that in the past, but I feel like with the three of us, like I said, it'd take another like 3 hours if we took Twitch chat.
Yeah, like, especially when people started
well.
asking questions about how they can improve.
Yeah.
With both me and AceTrainer, like, that one question alone, we will talk you for like 3 hours, no cap.
One question though was somebody asked if we'd pay $5,000 for or $8,000 for a 28 speed set, and I don't know that I would pay. I mean, I probably paid more than $8,000. And I don't have a 28 speed set, so you know, maybe.
Yeah,
But
I'm just
probably-
kind of over having
yeah.
speed. I have like this mid-range play style where 28 speed, 28 speed, whatever,
Yeah.
man. Like, you know, I do okay with my gear.
Yeah,
It's only
it
28
is what
speed
it-
on one hero, right?
yeah,
on one
it's
piece of
one
gear.
piece of gear.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know that
not
I'd pay 8K for just one gear. I'd have too many other pieces of gear throughout there. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna get derailed and we're gonna go on anymore. I'll see you later, YouTube. Take it easy, homies. Peace.
See you guys.